Chapter 1815. The green lotus withered and fell, losing its luster. Celestial Emperor let out a long roar, his voice shaking the universe. He used his unparalleled magical power to move countless star fragments and bury this place. The world was dim for 500 years. Emperor Qing actually appeared in this generation to challenge the path of immortality. This shocked the world and left behind endless legends. The heroes sighed. Those on the proud son of heaven's portrait were especially speechless. In the end, many of them disappeared from this world, while others no longer sealed themselves. They lived out their later years in peace and died in a peaceful state of mind. In short, almost no one went to the celestial court because they had once contended with Celestial Emperor in the same generation. They could be considered people of the same level, and were unwilling to ask for his protection in this generation. The maple leaves turned red year after year. Autumn came and went. Time continued to pass. Xianxia comprehended the seal of reincarnation, unraveled the flying immortal waterfall, comprehended the profound mysteries of the chaos physique, and researched all the methods of longevity. More than 10,000 years had passed, and this era had finally come to an end. The world was silent, and although many powerful quasi-emperors had appeared, they were all buried in the passage of time. This generation was so resplendent, yet no one achieved the Tao. Celestial Emperor sealed Xiaoxiao and the others, standing alone at the peak. Looking back over these 100,000 years, he could not find a single opponent and the world was silent. In the end, when this generation came to an end, Yifan fulfilled his promise and found Duanda, who was burying his head in digging a pit. He sat beside him without a sound. "Ghost!" Fatty Duan sensed something and shouted, "Celestial Emperor, you're really abnormal." Yifan only teased him back then. It was just a joke, but in this withering era, he felt very desolate and really found him to send him off. Celestial Emperor pointed with a finger and gave Duanda the imprint of his previous life. He kicked him into the grave and left. "This humble Taoist will return. I'll dig up your grave in the next life." Duanda's angry shout came from the depths of the mountain and gradually weakened. The autumn wind blew and the remaining leaves fell. Another golden age had passed. Celestial Emperor's calendar year 138,000. Yifan's fourth generation ended. He lived for 56,000 years in this generation. Such a lifespan caused the world to tremble and be in an uproar. Everyone knew that the Celestial Emperor had walked very far on the road to immortality, and people could no longer look at his back. Even though they were mentally prepared, everyone was still shocked. Heaven Emperor defied the heavens once again, living a fifth life. This time he pushed the laws and Tao to a glorious peak, nurturing 100 scriptures in a furnace, fusing 10,000 Tao into a furnace, actually forming a primal chaos body. Everyone was shocked. What kind of magnificent feat was this? It was actually possible. Originally, he didn't have this type of constitution and bloodline, yet he transformed like this, becoming the rarely seen chaotic body. Just how unrivaled was this? The fifth life was an extremely brilliant era for the Celestial Emperor himself. He was still a living legend. "I can't let the merciless Emperor monopolize the limelight." Someone sighed. Back in the day, Vicious had also gone through this process. His old mortal body had shed off a divine embryo and become a chaos body. In reality, the light-shaking realm had already begun to show signs of this. There would always be some paths in the world that would cross. It was impossible to say who was superior and who was inferior, but they would occasionally meet. In this life, Yifan began to live in seclusion in Undying Mountain, creating forbidden immortal techniques. He used the ancient wasteland tower and the myriad chi cauldron to suppress himself, not moving at all. The flow of time seemed to have slowed down. He wouldn't affect others' attainment of the Tao, because the Celestial Emperor had used an unprecedented method to suppress his own Tao, imprisoning it by his side. 50,000 years later, in the 188,000th year of the Celestial Emperor's calendar, a special era finally arrived. After a long period of time, countless talents withered and died. In the last 200,000 years, there was only one Celestial Emperor. In such an ancient period of time, no one else had attained the Tao. The resplendent Celestial Emperor flourished, and the gloomy myriad spirit era were somewhat contradictory. Finally this era changed. This was a soul-stirring great era. Stars flickered, and all kinds of bloodlines appeared. Emperor stars appeared one after another, shining brilliantly. There were finally signs that a new emperor was about to be born. Perhaps it was a great eruption after a long period of suppression, but this era was like a blowout. Geniuses rose up one after another, so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. On this day, Yi Fan was startled awake. He felt the great Tao rumble, the myriad Tao resonating. Someone was undergoing an emperor's tribulation, causing his imprisoned Tao to become unstable. It almost rushed out to suppress him. He immediately shook the cauldron, restraining his own Tao to avoid interfering with the successor, allowing him to smoothly become an emperor. The entire world trembled. Countless people cried out in alarm, discussing this matter. They were all excited and expectant. A new emperor had appeared. Half a month later, Yi Fan got up. When he walked out of Undying Mountain, he understood who the new emperor was, and even he was stunned. DK. He actually became the new emperor. Time passed slowly. Too much was cut down. Many people had long forgotten this person's name, not knowing that there was someone like this who could contend against Emperor of Fighting in the past, an unrivaled divine being. At the end of the archaic era, DK was Emperor of Fighting's greatest opponent. The sacred ape fought against him, barely making it out alive, leaving behind a lifetime of Tao injuries, and only then did he win with difficulty. In that era, DK was too stunning, not the slightest bit weaker than the sacred emperor. He even lived a second era, shocking past and present, becoming an emperor after suppressing the monkey's father. Even though the final result was that DK was defeated by half a move, the supreme being of the sacred ape bloodline becoming an emperor, this couldn't hide DK's brilliance. DK was still an unrivaled divine being. Didn't he die? Yi Fan said to himself. He still remembered that DK's nephew Kuan-zhou, the great sage, had said that his little uncle had already died of depression. Celestial the Arch walked the world and finally understood the truth. During the last years of the primordial era, DK, whose cultivation had stagnated and was like a walking corpse, was dragged by Kuan-zhou to fight against the enemy. He passively fought against the victorious fighting Buddha, only defending and not attacking. Then, he left for another region and buried himself. No one would have thought that when he sought death, there would be a lot of divine origin liquid there, drowning him and causing him to fall into a deep sleep. In this era, he was disturbed and woke up, suppressing everyone and becoming the new emperor. Yi Fan sighed. Ning Fei, Chuanying, Gai Jiuyo, DK and the others were all such gods. They only lacked a chance, but only DK made up for a lifetime of regret. In this era, the situation where Celestial the Arch reigned supreme and no one could become an emperor was finally broken. It could be said to be a new era. The only regretful thing was that DK wasn't a hero of the present era, but an ancient person. At the same time, Yi Fan also found out that the person who fought against DK was also an ancient person, the Prince of the Light Race. When Yi Fan stepped on the path of heaven back then, he saw the smelting god pot and knew that the prince of this race had disappeared. Who would have thought that he would fight with DK in this era? After the birth of the new emperor, Celestial the Arch never appeared. DK had only been on the throne for 8,000 years because he had already lived 2 lifetimes and used up too much of his lifespan. When he was alive, he admitted that he was inferior to Celestial the Arch and was far from being his opponent. Rumor had it that he had entered the Celestial Court and visited Celestial the Arch for a short spar. But legends were legends after all. Even after DK's death, Celestial the Arch still didn't appear. Many people suspected that he had transformed into the Tao. After another 10,000 years, DK's Tao marks were all used up and there were signs of him becoming an emperor again. People couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Celestial the Arch had been on the throne for many years and there hadn't been a new emperor, but now there was a huge change. In this era, the heroes fought for hegemony and there were countless corpses on the emperor's path. The final winner was actually a god-killing insect. The god-killing insect was only the size of a thumb when it was born. Its entire body was golden and shaped like a small dragon. It could devour all things and was unstoppable. It was rumored that a true pure-blooded insect could even devour deities. The god-killing emperor rose up from the insect nest and slowly evolved into an insect ancestor. He fought on the ancient starry sky path and killed all his competitors. Then, he took the final leap and became an emperor. This was a bloodthirsty emperor who was iron-blooded and emotionless. He made people revere him. Everywhere he passed, all the races in the universe became silent. People were terrified to the bone. It was because this race was too terrifying and innately emotionless. The god-killing emperor was incomparably terrifying. During his reign, all the races in the universe trembled in fear. However, he was still a great emperor and didn't kill the innocent. 8,000 years passed like this and he was like the sun in the sky. He had just reached the halfway point of his life and it was the most glorious time of his life. He made a shocking decision and entered the celestial court. This was already the 215,000th year of the celestial emperor's calendar. The celestial emperor had already disappeared for 60 to 70,000 years. After 2 eras, no one had seen him. Everyone thought that he had definitely passed away and ended his legendary life. The god-killing bloodline migrated. The endless sea of insects streaked across the universe like a golden ocean and surged to the southern heavenly gate. Since the celestial emperor has passed away, the celestial court is now empty. Now, I am the current great emperor and the masters of this world will rise and fall. The celestial court will be my palace to rule over the world and patrol the 4 directions. From today onwards, it will be the god emperor's residence. Rumbling thunder shook the universe and the supreme emperor's voice spread to all races. Everyone was shocked. The god-killing emperor was going to enter the celestial court. Would those celestial soldiers and generals agree? People sighed again. There was no immortal divine dynasty and no eternal scepter. The curtains were going to fall in the end. Thinking about how amazing the celestial emperor was, he had lived 5 eras and was unrivaled in the heavens and earth. In the end, his inheritance was still going to fall. The residence of the celestial emperor is not to be offended. 200,000 years had passed, but the celestial court's pride was still there. Everyone roared in anger and refused to yield, even if they were facing a great emperor. I have no intention of killing. I just want to live in a place where true emperors should live. All of you should leave now. The god-killing emperor appeared and looked down on the human world. His entire body shone with golden light and his blood energy surged into the heavens, causing people's souls to tremble. Behind him, countless golden god-slaying bugs covered the sky and covered the earth, almost drowning the starfield. He arrived in a domineering manner. The celestial soldiers and generals were either sent flying or collapsed to the ground. There was no way they could fight against a current great emperor. He put his hands behind his back and was about to enter the southern heavenly gate. However, at this moment, a finger of primal chaos suddenly appeared. It was incomparably huge and covered the entire star domain. It rumbled and fell down like a pillar that supported the heavens. The god-killing emperor's expression changed. He roared and shook the universe as he did his best to resist. The result shocked all the realms. When the finger of primal chaos fell, the god-killing emperor coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and was sent flying. He smashed through countless stars and fell to the edge of the universe. Celestial Emperor. The god-killing emperor was shocked. Sky covering snap. At this moment, the entire universe was in an uproar. All the experts understood the situation and their souls were shaken. They couldn't believe it. The celestial emperor was still alive. After 2 eras, the new emperor had never appeared. Although he had never appeared, he was always high up and looked down on the world. No matter how powerful the new emperor was, he couldn't be compared to him. From then on, the god-killing emperor avoided the edge of the universe and never took a step into an important star domain until he passed away. In the eyes and heart of the celestial emperor, he was already invincible and didn't care. In the 216,000th year of the celestial emperor's calendar, Yi Fan reappeared in the world and completed a heaven-defying transformation. For an entire 100 years, the star domain was filled with primal chaos. Tens of thousands of Tao interweaved and rumbled. He made a leap and broke free from the primal chaos body. He shed this body and returned to his origin. This time he lived his 6th life. 14,000 years later, in the 230,000th year of the celestial emperor's calendar, another dazzling era occurred. Something shocking happened. An innate primal chaos body appeared in the world. In this year, Yi Fan awakened and unsealed the baby girl, Yi Xian, in preparation to let her enter the world. All the races in the universe trembled. One in the celestial court and the other in the outside world. The 2 great primal chaos bodies actually met in this era. Chapter 1816. Yi Xian was only 4 or 5 years old. The little girl was tender and adorable. She was at the age where she was lively and active. As soon as she was unsealed, she cheered and flew up like a little butterfly. "Grandpa, you finally let Xian'er out. Yi Fan smiled and lovingly rubbed her head. He began to preach the Tao to her and urge her to cultivate. In the 6th life, Yi Fan had just started. His black hair was scattered and his eyes were like a sea of stars. His body was sparkling and flowing with immortal splendor. He abandoned the chaotic body and returned to his origin. He could be considered unparalleled in this world. In the last life, he created the chaotic great Tao and wrote a scripture. Now, he passed it all to Yi Xian and told her to cultivate diligently. In the outside world, a man had already shaken the universe. Although he was only 50 or 60 years old, he had already become a chaotic saint. He was invincible and his might shook the human world. There were people of higher realms who chased after him, but the chaotic body could always avoid them. He moved unhindered on the path of heaven and became stronger day by day. Everyone sighed in admiration. They had a premonition that an extraordinary supreme genius had risen. The glory of the legendary era had reappeared. He was going to create an immortal future. Time passed quickly and the sun and moon flew by. The little girl Yi Xian came of age. She was sent out of the celestial court by Yi Fan and trained in various places. As she continued to grow, her fame gradually spread. The chaotic body of the celestial court has also appeared. What is Sky Emperor trying to do? Could it be that he wants them to fight for the same world? Everyone was moved. This world was destined to not be peaceful. The chaotic body of the outside world was called Wang Bo. No one knew his origin. He had once coldly said that his parents didn't have the extreme Yin body or extreme Yang body. When Yi Fan understood this, he nodded and said to himself, yes, just like the first-generation divine body, it doesn't necessarily have to be the divine blood of the parents to be born innately. Sky Emperor silently deduced and couldn't help but be moved. This person had an extremely shocking origin. Only someone as powerful as Yi Fan could dispel the fog and deduce that he came from the legendary era. Celestial Emperor used a forbidden method to make a deduction. His brows jumped slightly. This was actually a dead person, and now, he appeared again. The person who was killed by celestial being in the past, his primordial spirit underwent nirvana and didn't completely die. In the end, he actually survived and sealed himself until now, only emerging after exhausting all of his immortal essence. Yi Fan sighed softly. This was actually the chaotic body from the mythological era. Back then, before it had fully matured and reached the Tao, it had already severely injured an ancient celestial being and almost took the life of a peak-level emperor. What kind of myth was this? That kind of battle record was still being passed down in the world. His body was sealed in the Big Dipper, turned into 5 continents, and became the 5 colored altars, left behind to attack the path of immortality. Who would have thought that he was actually able to deceive the ancient celestial being back then? His primordial spirit underwent nirvanic rebirth and escaped, sealing himself within the source. When he reached that level of power, his primordial spirit wouldn't be destroyed, so he could naturally recreate a chaotic physical body. Only time could destroy him. In this era, he severed his cultivation and began to cultivate anew. Is he trying to reach the peak of glory? Yi Fan said softly. The innate chaotic body Wang Bo's achievements were world-shaking. From start to finish, he intentionally controlled his cultivation speed and focused on building his foundation. Despite doing this, he still became the great sage 100 years later. The person with the fastest cultivation speed in history was the great sage who became the great sage in 100 years or so. If he wanted to break this record, it would have been no problem, but he didn't do so. The terror of the chaotic body began to show. As he cultivated, all Tao revived and resonated with him. In his place of isolation, Tao marks were densely packed and rumbling. During this period of time, there was a quasi-emperor who went to stop him, but in the end, he still calmly left. Yi Xian had long grown up as well. He was aloof like an immortal, chaotic energy overflowing in all directions. After more than 100 years, his might shook the starry skies. Finally, he met Wang Bo for the first time, and as soon as they looked at each other, they directly fought. This battle was naturally a great defeat for Yi Xian. Her cultivation time was shorter than the other parties, and she didn't know that the other party was a terrifying figure who had previously shaken the heavens and earth during the legendary era. In the end, she used the chaotic formation patterns established by Yi Fan to escape disaster. Her entire body was covered in blood as she returned to the celestial court, almost dying. The little girl was extremely stubborn, not willing to admit defeat. After returning, she didn't say a single word, immediately starting to cultivate after recovering from her injuries. Only when Yi Fan came to find her did Yi Xian leave her place of isolation. Master, this person's killing intent is extremely heavy. I feel like he is extremely dangerous, as if he is someone who wants to destroy all things. Yi Xian spoke the truth. Back then, he died under the hands of the celestial being. He struggled for rebirth, and only after many years did he truly recover from his Dao injuries. Unfortunately, his enemy passed away. In this era, he will most likely challenge all supreme beings. There is a wave of anger within him. Yi Fan spoke, slowly revealing his origins. When Yi Xian heard this, she widened her eyes in shock. This time he actually went easy on you. Otherwise, you most likely wouldn't have been able to return, Yi Fan said. Although he was sitting in the celestial court, he had personally watched that battle. He was testing Grandpa's reaction? Yi Xian asked. Yes, you don't need to think too much about it. I let you come into the world only to let him temper you. It is said that the chaotic body is unrivaled under the heavens. This is the best opponent on your path of growth. Yi Fan spoke the truth. 100 years later, the two great chaotic bodies fought a great battle, carrying out another decisive battle of life and death. Yi Xian was still defeated. The other party had lived 2 lives and cultivated from the beginning, terrifying to the extreme. She once again narrowly escaped back. Although she knew that the other party still wouldn't kill her, and her grandpa had always been paying attention and wouldn't tolerate a tragedy happening, she was still panting with anger. She began to bury her head in bitter cultivation. 50 years later, the two sides once again faced off at the peak, attracting the experts of the entire universe. All of them went to watch the battle. This time, Yi Xian was still heavily injured, but she also made Wang Bo cough out blood. In the end, she managed to injure the other party slightly. Just like that, they would fight every few decades to 100 years. Yi Xian advanced by leaps and bounds, growing rapidly. She was already on par with the other party. However, Wang Bo was also extremely terrifying. Using this period of time, he completely learned the chaotic scripture that Yi Fan had created and passed on to Yi Xian. From then on, in this resplendent great world, everyone else became supporting characters. Only the two great chaotic bodies stood side by side, unrivaled under the heavens. Yi Xian went from a series of great defeats to a series of small defeats, gradually reducing the gap between them. Her battle experience had long since become incomparably rich. Because they were both chaotic bodies, after truly comprehending it, who would be inferior to the other? With the Celestial Emperor's guidance, Yi Xian finally fought to a draw with Wang Bo at the age of 700. It was the same for many battles. Even after another 100 years, the battle results were still about the same. The whole world was shocked. In the next 100 years, many experts of the world worked together, but none of them could participate in the battle between the two of them. They were far from being their opponents. This world only belonged to them. Meanwhile, the two of them were both purposely suppressing themselves. Otherwise, they would have already successfully become emperors. At this point, the Celestial Emperor called Yi Xian back, not allowing her to fight again. He was going to personally seal her until the future. Grandpa, I'm about to become a great emperor. How can you be like this? She pouted angrily. There will be a time when you become an emperor. Yi Fan smiled. Yi Xian widened her eyes. She knew that Grandpa Celestial Emperor had always been preparing to fight his way into immortal domain. When she heard this news, she was immediately moved, having a premonition. Is there hope now? She asked. Yi Fan shook his head and said, the road is still moving forward. If I feel that something is wrong, I will definitely arrange a path of retreat for you guys in advance. At this point, the struggle for supremacy of the chaotic body ended in a draw. Only Wang Bo remained in this world, reigning supreme in the following years. 1,000 years later, Wang Bo became an emperor. All Dao merged, natural laws blazed. The entire world was filled with multicolored light, shaking the human world. Was this the Dao of the chaotic body? It was too extraordinary, all Dao harmonizing with him. As expected, he was unmatched under the heavens. Perhaps the Celestial Emperor had truly encountered a challenger. However, when everyone thought of the word challenge, they all shook their heads. The Celestial Emperor was unique, creating a miracle that had never been seen since ancient times. He was undefeatable. 10,000 years later, The chaotic body was like the midday sun, powerful to the peak of this life, advancing to the extreme. He called himself the Primal Chaos Heavenly Emperor. Everyone had a premonition that a great battle was about to arrive. Just this title alone was clearly targeted at him. There was only one person in this world who could be called the Celestial Emperor. 500 years later, Wang Bo ascended to the Celestial Court and challenged the Celestial Emperor. This day had finally arrived. The entire world was in an uproar. Everyone was shocked and expectant. Unfortunately, this battle was not as brilliant as everyone imagined. The Celestial Emperor did indeed accept the challenge and also took action, but the battle quickly ended, sending the chaotic body flying to the desolate borders of the cosmos. Because their cultivation realms were too high, no one knew how many moves they exchanged. Some said that Wang Bo was defeated after 3 moves, others said that it was 8 moves. It was publicly acknowledged that it was less than 10 moves. This result shook the great cosmos. Yes, the Celestial Emperor's battle prowess is unfathomable. People could only exclaim. Yi Fan had comprehended the chaotic body in his previous life, and then he severed it and was reborn. He had long returned to his original state and no longer needed this kind of chaotic blood. The Celestial Emperor can fight against many sovereign realm masters, including the chaotic body. Everyone understood that the chaotic body's strength only served as a foil to the Celestial Emperor's unparalleled divine might. It had actually become the unit value to measure his true strength. After this battle, the Celestial Emperor traveled far away. He landed on a star and sat in front of a large tomb. When a fat man climbed up with great difficulty, he immediately let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. Ghost! He fell into the tomb again, and after a long time, he climbed up again with his face covered in dirt. He stared at Yi Fan for a long time, making sure that he was really still alive and was still the Celestial Emperor. Only then did he spit out 4 words angrily. You're really abnormal. In order to become an immortal, I have no choice but to live. Yi Fan sighed. Did you figure out something? Duanda asked. Yes, all these years, I've been studying the immortal medicine and discovered some terrifying things. They seem to be fallen immortals one after another. Yi Fan spoke of a shocking fact. As soon as he said this, the whole world seemed to be shaken. Duanda's face paled. You and the Empress from the desolate Forbidden Ground both discovered this problem, so it's not far from the truth. She once divided the 9 wonder medicine into 9 stalks and studied it for tens of thousands of years. It's not that we can't become immortals, it's that there's a problem in that world. Yi Fan sighed and bid farewell to Duanda. Is this why you've been waiting? Duanda asked. The chaotic body suffered a great defeat, but it didn't collapse. On the contrary, it actually made a terrifying decision, which was to carry out self-severing. Just like Yi Fan, it severed its chaotic body, sealed its cultivation, and began to cultivate from the beginning. Because it still had enough lifespan. This year, Yi Fan undid another person's seal and released the divine child. Even though the little fatty was quite narcissistic and had been influenced by the Black Emperor and Li Tian to be a bit unreliable, his talent was truly exceptional. Ha! I, Great Emperor Yu Feng, can finally see the light of day. Even the evil Celestial Emperor can't stop me. I will rule the world and look down on everything. As soon as the little fatty came out, he put his hands on his waist and said arrogantly. In the end, Yi Fan smiled. He directly picked him up and smacked his butt. Ah, it hurt so much. That bastard dog is no longer here, and that scoundrel Li Tian is squatting on the side. How can someone still smack my butt? I hate it. In this life, Yi Fan passed on a great technique to him, allowing him to grow quickly. In the end, he went to fight the chaotic body and continued to temper himself. In the years that followed, the world was shocked. The Celestial Court was too terrifying. Not only was the chaotic girl heaven-defying, but the little fatty was just as shocking. When the little fatty truly grew up, his bravery overcame the world. He fought against Wang Bo until he was 800 years old, but it still ended in a draw. Of course, if not for Yi Fan's suppression, the divine child would have definitely charged into the Emperor realm. He was quite special and wouldn't be suppressed. He was formed from the immortal Ascension Cauldron's artifact spirit. His potential shocking. The spirit of an immortal artifact turned into a human, not any weaker than the chaotic body. Thus, the divine child was sealed in the source again, no longer appearing in the world. The chaotic body broke the seal and returned to the Emperor realm. He challenged Yi Fan again, but he was still defeated. It was rumored that he still couldn't exchange more than 10 moves. Wang Bo lived to 20,000 years old. His blood energy was like an ocean. With an angry roar, he went to fight the immortal path, wanting to forcefully open it. In the end, he disappeared in an expanse of blazing light. He opened up a path and took a step forward, but in the end, he left behind an expanse of ashes in the cosmos. During this period of time, Yi Fan forged 2 swords. Their killing intent overflowed into the heavens, shocking the great cosmos. They merged with the 4 swords of the numinous treasure celestial being, forming a total of 6 swords. Then, he once again refined the formation diagram, allowing it to ascend to the extreme and transcend, becoming more powerful than before. The celestial court was shaken. This could be considered a miracle. The numinous treasure celestial being was the creator of the secret set of words, and his attainments in the formation diagram were unrivaled throughout the ages. However, the emperor actually supplemented the formation diagram and added 2 more swords. This was simply shocking. Not long after, Yi Fan had the little sacred ape and the yellow-tooth elder's granddaughter come into the world one after another. He had them undergo trials, and after they reached the highest realm, they were sealed again. What is the celestial emperor going to do? The outside world was guessing. Within the celestial court, 6 killing swords hung around Yi Fan, and above his head, the formation diagram that had been supplemented was rising and falling. He said to himself, "Let the chaotic body Yi Xian, the little fatty born from the immortal ascension cauldron, the little silkworm that lived a second life, the little sacred ape, and the yellow-toothed granddaughter all become emperors. Each of them wielding a killing sword. Will they be able to seal a celestial emperor?" Yi Fan frowned. Apart from the 5 little ones, he still had to choose one more person. "I'm afraid the celestial emperor is going to make a big move." Everyone in the outside world was speculating like this because they had seen him send out the few children of the celestial court with astonishing aptitudes to train. They had a premonition that he was going to make a move. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, the celestial emperor made no move and calmed down. In the 300,000th year of the celestial emperor's calendar, the celestial emperor's imprint almost collapsed. It had once spread to all parts of the universe, piercing through 10,000 daos and shaking the world. What? The celestial emperor almost died? The celestial emperor almost died after transforming into Tao. Every race in the universe was shocked. Meanwhile, inside the celestial court, there was a gloomy atmosphere. This was a fact. Yi Fan had almost died. Although he had lived through the 7th life with great difficulty, the celestial emperor's imprint was unstable, and he had been unconscious all this time. The Komatsu that was in charge of protecting the celestial court had come into the world. He had studied it for 100 years, but he couldn't find the problem. His master had already become young and had successfully lived through the 7th life, so why couldn't he wake up? In the end, he walked toward a forbidden area and opened the seal. He brought out a massive celestial source, and a black dog was sealed within it. Upon closer inspection, it was already very old. Its original fur was slightly gray, and it had also shrunk considerably compared to before. Komatsu woke it up and unsealed the celestial source. Only after a very long time did the large black dog come to his senses, and he loudly asked if he had become a celestial. Komatsu shook his head, and told him about Yi Fan's problem. He felt that the large black dog had followed Emperor Wuxia before, so he was experienced and knowledgeable. Perhaps he could see something. Wahaha! Unexpectedly, the large black dog laughed wildly after hearing this. There wasn't the slightest bit of worry or sympathy in his eyes. "What are you laughing about?" the naive Komatsu asked suspiciously. "Nothing much. If you encounter this kind of problem, you can just hand him over to me." "Waha! He has finally fallen into my hands." Hee. There was arrogance and complacency in the Black Emperor's laughter. It was as if he was finally going to fulfill some long-cherished wish. Chapter 1817. Komatsu was doubtful and confused. Although his master was invincible, handing him over to the Black Emperor now felt like throwing a meat bun at a dog or a lamb in a tiger's den. "You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. I dare say that if you want to resolve his problems, there's no one more suitable than me in this world." The large black dog was putting on airs, but he was still smiling. His grin reached all the way to his ears, making him look like a wolf with a big tail. Komatsu stared at him. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that this large black dog's smile was very cunning. "What, you still don't trust me? Don't worry about me," the large black dog said as he patted his chest. Komatsu was a little speechless. Everyone in the celestial court knew that this dog was the most unreliable. Even though 300,000 years had passed, the rumors about him were still spreading. They arrived at the heavenly palace and looked at Yi Fan, who was lying on the chaos stone bed. His eyes were tightly closed, and his hair was jet black. His entire body was sparkling with a celestial light like divine glass. The celestial Thearcha's aura was restrained, and not a single bit of divine power seeped out. It was as if he was forged from jade, and he didn't move at all. He's really become a supreme celestial the Arch, comparable to Emperor Wuxia. The large black dog stared at Yi Fan for a long time, and actually started to drool. "You? What do you want to do?" Komatsu looked at him warily. "Do you know who he is?" the Black Emperor asked. "My master." "Who else is he?" "The Celestial the Arch." "That's right. The Celestial Thearcha's blood flows in his body." The Black Emperor wiped away his saliva, and a wicked glint appeared in his eyes. Komatsu felt a headache coming on. This damned dog's nature was showing up again. "There's nothing to say. Since we've caught up, we have to live up to ourselves," the large black dog tempted Komatsu. "You? What do you want to do?" Komatsu glared at him. "What else can I do? Come. Let's first have 3 bowls of Celestial Thearcha's blood and drink to our heart's content. Then we'll slowly think of a way to revive him," the large black dog said shamelessly. Komatsu was completely speechless and said, "Uncle Black Emperor, can we not kill each other? Can we be more reliable? All right, let's seriously think of a way to help him." The large black dog finally calmed down. Komatsu was also deep in thought. He once again organized the scriptures that Yi Fan had left behind, hoping to find some clues and signs. Half a day later, when he returned, he discovered that the Black Emperor was covering his cheeks and grimacing in a strange manner. "What's wrong?" he asked the boy beside him. "Patriarch Black Emperor, he..." The boy didn't dare to continue. Komatsu instantly understood. The large black dog really was quite amusing. In the end, he still bit Yi Fan a few times in an attempt to extract some Celestial Thearcha's blood. In the end, he almost broke all of his teeth. "You should be glad that Master's great Tao is reserved. Otherwise..." Komatsu shook his head. "Nonsense. Do you really think this emperor is stupid? Otherwise, I wouldn't have bitten you." The large black dog spoke boldly. Then, he truly began to ponder and research. After a long time, he said, he should be trying to awaken some kind of legendary great Tao. It's most likely difficult to awaken him with just external force. Komatsu nodded. He also thought that Master was treading on the path of immortality, and this was related to his transformation and living his 7th life. If he understood the Tao of this life, he should be able to help him. "I'll go to Master's place of seclusion to comprehend. Perhaps I'll be able to find out what kind of path he's walking on in this life." Komatsu left. "There's no need to investigate. I know what kind of path he's walking on. It should be an eternal dream." The Black Emperor had followed Great Emperor Wuxia before, so he could be considered to be knowledgeable. "What kind of technique is this?" Komatsu asked. The Black Emperor solemnly said, "This is a supreme technique. In a deep sleep, one will dream eternally, and experience hundreds or even tens of thousands of lives in the dream. In the long river of time, one will refine one's heart and Tao, transcending the mortal world." He explained this technique, but this was only a theoretical path. It was extremely dangerous. Just think about it, who would dare to live in a dream their entire life? This was too terrifying, and there were no imperial elites who were willing to try it. Live in a dream your entire life? Komatsu was astonished. "That's right, it's been like this his entire life." The Black Emperor nodded. He thought for a moment, and then said, "Unless he truly defies the heavens and can return from the void to reality, defying the heavens and returning." Is Great Emperor Vicious also cultivating this kind of technique? Komatsu's heart stirred. He's walked a similar path before, but it shouldn't be. The Black Emperor shook his head. There were some paths that crossed, and it was impossible to say who was superior and who was inferior. They were all different, and there was no need to compare them. At this point, the celestial court regained its peace. The celestial emperor was in a coma, and Komatsu sealed himself in Yuanzhong, guarding the central celestial palace. The large black dog appeared, and ruled over the celestial court for several decades. He looked down on the universe, and pointed out the world. Finally, he left behind the era of the Black Emperor, and he reigned supreme for a short period of time. During this period, he once sought out the descendants of the Silver Blood Emperors, who were now the most important members of the celestial court, and asked them if they had found that legendary person. When he received a negative answer, he felt a wave of sadness. In the end, he said, under normal circumstances, one person will appear in the cultivation world every 100,000 years. Now that 300,000 years have passed, this doesn't make sense. Continue to search, there are still 100,000 years left. In the end, the large black dog fell into a deep sleep again, all for the sake of avoiding dying of old age. Yi Fan pacified the forbidden area and suppressed the chaos. He moved the Origin Ancient Mine, Undying Mountain, High Heavens, and Ruins of God over, turning them into the courtyard of the Celestial Court. Naturally, there would be no lack of Celestial Source Liquid, Grand Beginning Lifestones, and other things. Time passed quickly, and 20,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Yi Fan woke up, and sat up late at night, alarming the Celestial Court. Komatsu was startled awake, because he was standing guard at the side. He broke through the celestial source pool and said with a trembling voice, "Master!" 20,000 years passed, and Yi Fan dreamed for 10,000 years. He didn't age, and was full of vigor. However, his eyes were very dazed. He directly tore through the void, and disappeared from the celestial court. Komatsu was shocked, and he hurriedly chased after him. He discovered that he descended on an ancient star, and turned into an ordinary person. His magic power and other things seemed to have disappeared, and several years later, he actually became a fisherman by the sea. What is going on? Komatsu was confused. In the end, he asked the Black Emperor to come out. This brat is truly heaven-defying. He dreamed for 10,000 years, and not only did he return from the void to reality, he even went from the past to the present. His profound mysteries have been sublimated by him. He is truly experiencing life, and he is going to walk through the ages. They followed behind him seriously. Komatsu's lifespan was still enough, but the Black Emperor couldn't endure it, and he didn't break through the celestial source pool, and was brought along by Komatsu. In this life, Yi Fan lived for 63 years. His hair was white, and in the end, he was buried in the sea while fishing, dying like an ordinary person. However, when this short life ended, the body that was buried in the sea immediately became young, and in the end, he recovered. He ended his identity as a fisherman, tore apart the universe, and threw himself into another ancient star. In this life, he became a soldier, and he fought on the battlefield his entire life. In the end, he died on the battlefield at the age of 50, and his chest was pierced through. What a freak! The Black Emperor sighed. Under normal circumstances, even immortal artifacts might not be able to harm the Celestial Emperor's body. However, for the sake of walking through the ages, he combined the dream and reality so closely, and it actually evolved to such a realistic level. When the old soldier was buried in the battlefield, buried in the yellow earth, Yi Fan recovered once again, and another life began. This time, he became a teacher, and he lived a poor life, dying of depression. Can it not be so real? The Black Emperor sighed, feeling a headache. In the end, even Komatsu couldn't hold on anymore. He sealed himself with the immortal source, and only left an imprint on his master's body, which could be found at the critical moment. Just like that, Yi Fan experienced life after life, and after dozens of lives, then hundreds of lives, he spent more than 20,000 years in this world of mortals. His identity kept changing, and he experienced the world of mortals. He was a beggar, a king, and he was poor, and he had glory and splendor, and he had also fought in the world of mortals. On this day, the descendants of the Silver Blood Emperors woke up the Black Emperor and reported, "Ancestor, I found that person." What? The Black Emperor trembled, shattered the immortal source, and directly rushed out. Gaochen Ancient Star. Qingyun State. Yunchuan was a place with beautiful mountains and clear waters. It was not considered famous in the Qingyun State because ordinary people lived here, and there were no cultivators. Chen Shi, a young girl of 18 or 19 years old, was like her name, like a clear stream in the morning light, giving people a refreshing and lively feeling. She was beautiful and intelligent. Although she wasn't a cultivator, she had a kind of spiritual and otherworldly disposition, and seemed to stand out from the masses. Ancestor, should we take her away? The descendants of the Silver Blood Emperors asked. The Black Emperor was so excited that his whole body was trembling, but he firmly and decisively shook his head, and said, "No, let nature take its course. Don't change the course of her life like this." This was actually a natural Tao embryo. It was like a pearl covered in dust, hidden in this small place, and no one noticed it at all. This is a divine bloodline. Ancestor, are you really not going to bring her back to the celestial court? The Black Emperor shook his head resolutely and said, "Although I am acting in defiance of the heavens, I don't want her to be hurt or wronged. We must let nature take its course." They left someone behind to stand guard, and then the large black dog rushed back to the celestial court. He couldn't bear to make a move against the young girl who was like morning dew in the morning light, but he had no qualms against Yi Fan. "Celestial the Arch, I'm going to take care of you." The Black Emperor bared his teeth. He found Komatsu, and said, "Don't you think there are some flaws in Yi Brat's 10,000 worlds path?" Komatsu faltered and asked, "What flaws?" "He is intentionally avoiding something. After living for over 400 lives, he has never married or had children. This is the work of his subconscious, and it has limited his path. This kind of deliberate action has already put him at a disadvantage," the large black dog said with a serious expression. Komatsu was dazed. He felt that this unreliable large dog was going to cause trouble again. "What I said is the truth. This is too deliberate, and it doesn't conform to the cultivation of the mortal world. We should help him." The Black Emperor was almost fanatical. "I don't dare to make a decision for Master on this matter." Although Komatsu was usually shy and pure, he still knew that this dog was unreliable again in this kind of matter. "I'm telling the truth." The large black dog was anxious, and he pulled him to sit down. He earnestly explained the profound meaning of the eternal dream, as well as the flaws that he needed to pay attention to. For a whole 3 days and 3 nights, the Black Emperor's saliva flew everywhere. His mouth was dry, and his throat felt like it was about to be set on fire. This caused Komatsu to feel a little dizzy. Finally Komatsu spoke and said, "Since Master's subconscious has already limited himself, it's useless even if you want to make up for it. You can't change it at all." "I can't change it, but there are others who can. I only need you not to stop me." The Black Emperor only wanted this kind of promise. Then he solemnly and seriously added, "It's really not easy for Yi Fan to reach this step. You also don't wish for his great Tao to be incomplete in this life because of a flaw, right?" After the Black Emperor had been foaming at the mouth for 10 days and 10 nights, Komatsu's head was aching. In the end, he nodded. However, he had just agreed when he felt that he had been tricked by this dog. Most of what he had said was unreliable. However, after studying the great technique, Eternal Dream, he also felt that it was better to experience everything in the mortal world. He secretly apologized to Master and directly went into seclusion for the next 100 years. In this world, there was only one thing that could affect the Celestial Emperor's subconscious, and that was the myriad Qi cauldron. It had long been an immortal weapon, and it had been with Yi Fan for such a long time. Their lives were intertwined, and while he was asleep, it could change the situation. When he came to the central heavenly palace and saw the simple and unadorned cauldron, the Black Emperor seriously explained the purpose of his visit. As expected, he was directly rejected. However, he was very patient. He sat down and seriously stated, "What we cultivators are pursuing now is no longer the problem of one person becoming an immortal, but to explore the righteousness of why the path of immortality has been cut off since ancient times. No one has been able to achieve immortality for a long time, and there is a limit to one's strength. Although the Celestial Emperor is heaven-defying, he may not be able to reach the end of the path of immortality. Why not exhaust all kinds of resources and means, leave behind hope, and let the most capable people participate together? Do you dare to say that the innate saint body does not have this qualification? If Yi Fan unfortunately falls in the future, who will inherit the path he explored and his will of the great Tao? This child will be a seed that will inherit his will, the aspiration of our cultivators, because he will not be weaker than the Celestial Emperor, but continue to explore the root cause of this path being cut off. What do I seek? What are we cultivators for? What we seek is not just one immortal, but the truth and origin of the ages. The Black Emperor was unusually serious as he reprimanded the myriad Qi cauldron. His words were sonorous and righteous. The cauldron was silent, but the other immortal weapons spoke. What a good, what do I seek, what are we cultivators for? I agree. The ancient desolation tower let out a rumbling sound. Usually, it didn't even care about the celestial emperor and was always silent. Today, it spoke like this for the first time. The myriad Qi cauldron sighed. Although I know you are bluffing and are the most unreliable, I also want to be unreliable this time. If the celestial emperor fails in the celestial path, it would be good to leave behind a seed of hope. After the two immortal weapons made up their minds, they immediately took action. Especially the myriad Qi cauldron. It went to affect Yi Fan's subconscious, wanting to change the path he deliberately avoided. Star Gaochen. Qingyun Plain. Yi Fan came. Although the celestial emperor's aura was restrained and he went through a tribulation in the mortal world, becoming an ordinary person and not knowing his past, his outstanding temperament was still hard to hide. The Black Emperor, the myriad Qi cauldron, and the ancient desolation tower did not affect Chen Shi. They only blinded Yi Fan's subconscious that was always resisting, making him unable to avoid some of the things that would happen. Yunchuan was not a very big place. It was inevitable for the two extremely outstanding men and women to meet. Letting nature take its course, they finally walked together a few years later. Chen Shi, bright and ethereal, was like a flower that had just bloomed. However, although she was an innate Tao embryo, she did not cultivate. After a few decades, she gradually grew old. In this process, Yi Fan also slowly grew old with her. He was originally going through a tribulation, and this was a very real life. They had a child in their later years, and they gave birth to a baby boy that almost sucked up the essence of the entire ancient planet and the nearby star regions. When he was born, it shocked the world. Fortunately, the ancient desolation tower and the myriad Qi cauldron were prepared, and the Black Emperor had also made arrangements, providing countless divine source and other essences. They also concealed Yunchuan and sealed the baby boy, so the news did not leak. In the past few decades, Chen Shi was very satisfied and happy. She was smart and cheerful, and there was a man that she loved to grow old with her. To her, it was already very satisfying. The two of them did not know, and if they did not say anything, Chen Shi would live this life peacefully until the end of her life, just like many people who were originally happy. But in the end, the Black Emperor had a knot in his heart. He did not know if doing this was right or wrong, and he did not know if it was fair to the young girl. At this time, it was the celestial cauldron that came to enlighten the Black Emperor, saying, "She is very satisfied and happy in this life." It ended peacefully, just like those happy people in the world. But this emperor still feels sorry. If one day, the little boy asks me who his mother is, how will I answer? This was the first time the Black Emperor felt so ashamed. He did not feel the slightest bit of guilt towards Yi Fan and directly ignored him. From his point of view, no matter what setbacks and blows, the celestial emperor could endure them. In the end, when the Black Emperor saw the two old people who had supported each other until they were old and had never quarreled in their lives, he finally mustered up his courage and found a chance to tell Chen Shi the truth. Celestial Emperor? At first, Chen Shi, who was no longer in her youth, did not believe it. However, the Black Emperor displayed all kinds of divine abilities and spoke of a part of the cause and effect, so she believed it. I want to bring you into the celestial court and guide you onto the path of cultivation so that you can live forever in this world. The Black Emperor said, making such a decision. However, Chen Shi's reaction exceeded its expectations. This was once an ethereal and intelligent young girl. Even though she was old, she was still flickering with wisdom. To be able to work hand in hand with the celestial emperor for my entire life, I am already very satisfied. I was originally very happy. So isn't it good to end things like this? Actually, you don't need to come find me and tell me these things. The Black Emperor was stunned. The woman in front of him actually responded like this, causing him to be stunned. He felt more and more guilty, insisting on inviting her into the celestial court to extend her life. Chen Shi smiled. She combed her white hair and said, "What I like is the person who will accompany me until I grow old, and not the true celestial emperor who rules over the world. If I return to the celestial court, he has his vast sky, and as for me, I still only like the people and things here. The most important thing in life is not having something forever. We were once moved, and we accompanied each other until we grew old. I am very satisfied, and all of this is enough." She smiled, but firmly refused. "Mother!" In the distance, a young child ran over. He was active and beautiful, and behind him was a white-haired old man who looked at him benevolently. They walked over together. The large black dog turned around, but for some reason, he felt a little sad. Had he done wrong this time? If it wasn't for him, all of this would not have happened. Even though Xianxi's life was very happy and very complete, the Black Emperor still felt guilty. If it hadn't caused trouble, it wouldn't have all of this distress, but how could it be willing to accept this? Under the setting sun, although two of the family of three had white hair, and they were pulling a small figure into the distance, it seemed very peaceful and happy. Sigh, why do I still feel a little sour in my heart? The large black dog gave himself a forceful slap. He staggered in retreat, almost falling onto the ground. If this kind of happiness can continue, perhaps I won't feel like this. Soon they will have to part ways. One will die of old age, while the other will become the celestial emperor above the 9 heavens. I hate this result, the Black Emperor said with a sigh. Actually, you can change all of this, the all-life energy cauldron said. A year later, there was a new grave in Yunchuan, and Xianxia was buried within it. White-haired Yifan shed tears. He guarded here, sitting alone in a daze. The little boy was taken away by an expert to seek celestial cultivation. The Tao embryo of the natural saint physique was naturally brought back to the celestial court and sealed in the source. The Black Emperor began to make preparations. He wanted to prepare all kinds of divine objects and then build a foundation for him. Several years later, white-haired Yifan died of old age and was buried. Not long after, he didn't start another life. Instead, he truly awakened and directly returned to the celestial court. His black hair fell like a waterfall, and his eyes were like cold lightning as he stared at the all-life energy cauldron. In this world, only this cauldron could exert some influence on him when he was ignorant, because they were originally one. The all-life energy cauldron trembled, and it almost collapsed. In the end, Yifan left and came before the Black Emperor. He didn't say anything, and just stared at it for a long time. It was rare for the Black Emperor to feel guilty. He lowered his head and didn't say a word. Yifan left and returned to Yunchuan. He sat in front of that woman's grave and didn't speak for a long time. Those decades of time appeared in his heart, and it made him tremble. In the end, he cracked open the grave and took out a huge divine source from within. Xianxia was sealed within, and her lifespan naturally hadn't reached its end yet. She should be able to live for another 20 years. The Black Emperor will always be a bastard, Yifan said in a low voice. He knew that the bastard felt guilty and didn't know what to do. He threw all the future matters to him, sealed Xianxia, and let him make his own decision. Although the mortal life he experienced was short, it was unforgettable. Otherwise, he wouldn't have awakened. The celestial emperor wasn't heartless. Yifan hugged the divine source, and his eyes revealed a gentle light. He looked at this woman and then sighed. He returned to the celestial court and placed her in the central heavenly palace. Then, he fell into a deep sleep. Master, what happened to him? Komatsu woke up and asked. The eternal dream can be considered complete. He is on the path of longevity in his heart, searching and advancing in this Tao realm. The Black Emperor said. Only, it was unknown how many tens of thousands of years it would end. Then Komatsu saw Xianxia in the source and bowed respectfully. Send her into the sealed land and leave it to the celestial emperor to deal with in the future. The Black Emperor was as slippery as ever. He threw all the headaches to Yifan. In the cosmos, 9 dragons soared through the sky, pulling a huge bronze coffin. They moved slowly from one region to another. Many people saw that when the news came out, it shook the cosmos. It was unknown how many heroes rushed over from all directions, but in the end, no one could catch up. Every time someone approached, it would disappear from the void and then reappear in another region. The celestial court sent out a large number of people because they knew that Yifan had once stepped onto the path of cultivation because of the 9 dragons pulling the coffin. However, the celestial court didn't obtain anything. The celestial emperor is sleeping, otherwise, he would definitely be able to capture it. In the same year, someone saw 5-colored immortal light rushing into the sky in a region. There were actually a total of 5 eyes of fortune there, and they were being absorbed by a stone egg. Tens of thousands of multicolored lights shot out. The people of the world were shocked. They wanted to rush over, but in the end, that place directly darkened. They disappeared in a flash. The Celestial Emperor had long surpassed the Yuan Taoist master in the domain of origin techniques. However, when he searched the rivers and mountains of the world back then, he didn't find a single true Eyes of Fortune. There were actually 5 of them there, which made people sigh in admiration. Damn it! It seems like the undying Heavenly Emperor has found all the Eyes of Fortune in the world countless years ago. 1 was given to the Celestial Prince, and 5 were left for that stone egg. The Black Emperor was furious. In the end, he laughed coldly and said, "There's no harm in this. Let's see who is strong and who is weak." The Wuxia scripture that has been covered in dust for tens of thousands of years should come into being. Chapter 18:18. Was it the second son of the undying Heavenly Emperor? People couldn't be sure, but they all suspected it. It had appeared several times in the past tens of thousands of years, and it was extremely mysterious. The Black Emperor, Komatsu, and the others deduced seriously and felt that it might not appear in the next tens of thousands of years. However, they still paid more attention and paid more attention. Time flew by. During this period of time, geniuses and heroes rose from time to time, leaving behind heroic battle records one after another. However, in the long river of time, these famous heroes would gradually be forgotten. They couldn't be compared to the legend of the Celestial Emperor that had existed for a long time. Only by surpassing the ancients and dazzling the contemporaries could they truly be remembered. However, the Celestial Emperor's imprint had been unstable all these years, and it had almost scattered in the universe. Tens of thousands of years had passed, but he still hadn't appeared. What was going on? During this period of time, a new emperor had appeared, and he had obtained the Great Tao, opening an extremely glorious period. However, even after 10,000 years of his death, the Celestial Emperor was still in this world. This made people sigh. Even an emperor could only look up to the high and mighty Celestial Emperor, who was still in deep sleep. Not long after, the myriad Qi cauldron disappeared, carrying the sleeping Yifan into the universe. This was the subconscious of the Celestial Emperor. He wanted to comprehend longevity under the endless starry sky and completely disappeared from the world. On this day, Komatsu had a feeling that there was a supreme existence staring at the celestial court. He quickly rushed out, only to see a ray of immortal light flash and disappear. Xiao Song personally went to the jade pool to see the divine fetus within the 9-aperture immortal stone. After so many tens of thousands of years, she had already reached the consummate level. As long as she was born, she would definitely become a martial emperor in the shortest time possible. There was no suspense. However, it wasn't that divine fetus, and it didn't have this kind of aura. However, it might really appear in the world. The 9-aperture immortal stone couldn't truly seal her for all eternity. Master's current situation is unclear. We need to pay more attention, said Komatsu. During this period of time, Komatsu had flipped through all kinds of ancient scriptures and studied the methods left behind by Yifan. He was quite emotional, and unknowingly, he had actually leaped into the Emperor realm. Everyone in the celestial court, including the Black Emperor, was shocked. Komatsu himself was also stunned. He had been too engrossed and failed to control himself. He had actually directly become an emperor. Furthermore, Yifan had warned him before that now was not the time to attack the immortal path. Now that he had become a martial emperor, he could no longer seal it. He would not be able to wait until that future era. In the end, there was no other way. At this stage, Komatsu could only face the sovereign tribulation. The appearance of a second sovereign in the celestial court shocked the entire universe. It could be said that the celestial court had reached the pinnacle of glory. 1 sect, 2 emperors, and if there were no accidents, there would be 3 emperors, for emperors. But it was at this unbelievably brilliant moment that a shocking change occurred. In the dark and cold universe, a crack suddenly appeared, and an immortal waterfall appeared. A jade-white giant hand holding a 5-colored immortal saber streaked across the sky and disappeared into the celestial court. It cut open a sealed palace and pointed at the sealed little boy, the primordial saint body's embryo of Tao. "How dare you!" the Black Emperor roared. It had been guarding the boy this entire time, sealing itself in the ancient palace. It hadn't been easy to get the boy, and it wouldn't tolerate any mishaps. It already achieved the Tao through a different method, but right now, it was useless even if it risked its life. Before the blade even reached its body, The killing intent formed by the five-colored immortal light already tore it apart. Its body was broken into several pieces, a rain of blood gushing out as it flew outwards. Bam! In that critical moment, the void split open, and the ancient wild's pagoda appeared to block the saber. At the same time, it emanated a soft light that protected everything in the area. Shocking killing energy shot up into the sky, shocking the entire universe. Howling, Komatsu awoke from his deep state of enlightenment, and shot forward to meet the saber. A violet gold pagoda appeared above his head to block it. Crack! However, it only took a single exchange for the undying heaven saber to destroy the violet gold Grand Emperor's pagoda. After all, it was an immortal item. The ancient wild's pagoda descended to protect Komatsu. On the other side, the Black Emperor almost died on the spot. Enduring the pain, he was only left with the upper half of his body. Holding on to the godly essence with the boy sealed inside, he turned and fled, not for himself, but for the sake of protecting the boy. The only good thing was that although the saber was pointing at the boy, it wasn't aiming to take his life, but rather to take him away. Otherwise, the Black Emperor and the godly essence would have been destroyed. Boom! Komatsu merged with the ancient wild's pagoda, and with the immortal item floating above his head, he charged toward the hand holding the saber. However, as soon as they clashed, the ancient wild's pagoda shone with blinding light, and Komatsu did everything he could to block it. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. After all, he had just become an emperor, and his enemy was the undying heavenly emperor, who had an immortal item and was invincible. He had lived for countless years, and his cultivation had reached a terrifying level. Undying heavenly emperor, what are you doing? If you want to be my master's enemy, you can fight it out with him. Why are you attacking my master's son? Komatsu shouted. His entire body was covered in blood as he activated the ancient wild's pagoda to block it. In the clash of the terrifying immortal items, clanging sounds rang out endlessly. Immortal light shocked the universe. Komatsu continuously coughed up blood, and all the bones in his body broke. He could not block the undying heavenly emperor. However, it was because of him and the ancient wild's pagoda that they managed to block the immortal saber temporarily. Otherwise, the innate sage body would have been snatched away without any suspense. Stop him. This old man wants to investigate the secrets of the innate sage body. He can't deal with Emperor Wuxia in the other world, so he wants to start from here. The Black Emperor shouted in horror, using his life to block and protect this child. Boom! At this moment, beams of divine light shot up from the celestial court, connecting to the sky and shaking the earth. That was the forbidden land of the celestial court, where a group of outstanding talents of the past were sealed. Undying your mother! The first to roar was a giant ape covered in golden fur. He was tens of thousands of meters tall. He opened his mouth and spat out a Tao diagram that rushed towards the undying heavenly blade. It was actually the sacred prince. Beside him, another divine ape rose up. Its 6 ears moved in unison, shooting out 6 beams of immortal light that could kill gods and immortals. The sacred ape bloodline hated the undying heavenly emperor the most. This was because the emperor of fighting had also been ambushed before he became a war immortal. Even though he had managed to avoid that calamity, he had still suffered heavy injuries. Heavenly Emperor, your mother. You dare to bully my parents? I'll smash your lungs. The little sacred ape roared. He raised his immortal iron rod and directly went forward to attack. In the past, Yi Fan had released him to temper him. His divine abilities were already unrivaled, but he had not taken that final step. You dare to bully my master's son? Undying old ghost. Hand over your life. On the other side, a majestic figure covered in golden flames rushed up. It was Xianxia, who had a large success divine physique. He raised his fist and punched the sky. At the same time, Yi Tong, Jiang Tingting, Hua Hua, and all the other supreme geniuses who had been sealed for over 300,000 years had all reappeared and attacked the sky together. Set up the formation and slaughter him. The divine child shouted. He called out to Yi Xian, Little Can, and the others. Each of them held a killing sword and rushed into the sky. They were all like newborn calves that were not afraid of tigers. They wanted to kill the heavenly emperor. It had to be said that the heavenly emperor was truly too powerful. With the 5-colored immortal blade in hand, he actually wanted to sweep through everyone. Komatsu was at the very front and bore the brunt of the attack. He activated the ancient desolate tower to block and resist. Dang! This sound was deafening. It tore apart the sky and collapsed a part of the starry sky. The others either attacked the sky or neutralized the shockwaves to protect the celestial court. This sudden battle shocked the world. The undying heavenly emperor had appeared again and directly attacked the celestial court. His methods were tyrannical and terrifying. In this battle, Komatsu had suffered serious injuries. Because he had used immortal artifacts to block the heavenly emperor's attacks, his body was now covered in cracks and was about to explode. Scram! A loud roar shook the universe. The heavenly emperor had awakened and revived. Separated by countless galaxies, he directly tossed out the myriad chi cauldron. It pierced through the universe and smashed onto the five-colored immortal blade. Then, he took a step forward and crossed the endless river of stars. He punched at the arm, and a great battle between heavenly emperors erupted. However, after only a few moves, the snow-white jade-like hand retreated with the immortal blade. At the same time, the flying immortal waterfall also disappeared. The entire universe was shocked. After such a long time, the heavenly emperor had appeared again and almost heavily injured the celestial court. His methods were indeed terrifying and heaven-defying. The entire world was horrified. Everyone was discussing this. If the heavenly emperor had not awakened at the crucial moment, who knew what the result would have been? While the outside world was in an uproar and everyone was discussing this, the celestial court was very quiet. Many people were gathered in the heavenly palace to protect Komatsu. His injuries were too severe. In order to protect Yi Fan's son, he risked his life and fought with everything he had. In the final attack, his entire body exploded. Moreover, the blade chi swept over and cut his primordial spirit. At this moment, there was only a weak ball of flame jumping about. That was Komatsu's true spirit. Originally, Komatsu's body and spirit had been destroyed. It was the heavenly emperor who had used a heaven-defying divine ability to seize his life and forcibly gathered a bit of spiritual consciousness to prevent him from dissipating. It wasn't that Komatsu wasn't strong enough, but the heavenly emperor was too terrifying. He had blocked the undying heavenly emperor's all-out attacks and only died at the last moment. This achievement was already shocking enough. After all, he had just become a heavenly emperor and hadn't completely stabilized himself. On the other side, the Black Emperor's body had also exploded. However, his life had been saved by Yi Fan and he had been baptized by the Heavenly Emperor's blood. The little boy wasn't injured in the slightest and was well protected. Only one Komatsu was about to die. Master, is there no other way? Xianxia, Yi Tong, Hua Hua, and the others were incomparably anxious. The others also felt sad. Yi Fan shook his head, his eyes filled with endless sadness. In the end, he held the spiritual consciousness light ball and entered seclusion. He only came out half a month later. Komatsu! Everyone surrounded him, and their hearts trembled. On Yi Fan's shoulder, there was a purple Komatsu mouse. Its fur was glossy, and its large eyes were like black gems. It was very intelligent. However, when it heard everyone calling it, it was a little confused. Only when Yi Fan patted its head did it start to laugh heartlessly. Seeing its innocent appearance, everyone's heart ached. How could this be? It's heavily injured and has fallen from the throne. Moreover, its cultivation has been completely severed, Yi Fan said with boundless sorrow. Everyone's hearts trembled. A self-severed supreme being couldn't return to the throne, and Komatsu had even lost all of its cultivation. What hope did it have? Could it be that it could only be a pure Komatsu mouse for the rest of its life? Master, you must have a way, right? Yi, what other ways do you have? No one could accept this result. Yi Fan was silent. He had already used the undying medicine, celestial emperor's blood, and other heaven-defying methods to seize its spiritual consciousness. Only then did its true body reappear. However, this was all he could do. After a long time, he said, if we want him to recover his cultivation and return to the throne, the only way is to find the Tao integration flower. However, this kind of thing could only be encountered and not sought. From a certain perspective, it was even more precious than the undying medicine because it could allow one to become an emperor. Demonic God flower, divine flower, Tao integration flower, the last one was the most respected. It would only bloom once every 1,000,000 years. If it wasn't eaten, it would bloom and not wither. You guys don't need to be anxious about this matter. I'll think of a way, Yifan said in a low voice. Komatsu had survived in the end. With Celestial Emperor at his side, his life shouldn't be too much of a problem. Undying Heavenly Emperor, in the past, he only took action against Emperor Dao figures. Now, he actually came to seize a child and started a massacre. This is intolerable. Many people were furious. I underestimated his bottom line. I'll definitely kill him in the future. After so many years, Celestial Emperor had always been very steady and rarely said such things. What is the Heavenly Emperor? He only knows how to sneak attack. When we really conquer the immortal path, we'll definitely kill him. The others were also furious. Yifan shook his head and said, although I despise his actions, I have to say that he is very powerful. No one can be careless. How powerful can he be? Unfathomable. Yifan said truthfully. Master, you still can't easily kill him after cultivating to this point? Yifan sighed and said, even a pig that has lived for millions of years would have long become a spirit or even an immortal, let alone a heavenly emperor who hasn't severed himself. I'm improving, but so is he. We can't underestimate him. Chapter 18-19. Time flew, and the wheels of history continued to roll forward. In the 400,000th year of the Celestial Emperor's calendar, Yifan lived his 8th life. He cut off the origin of the saint body and turned into a mortal body, causing monstrous waves. He cut off the chaos blood, the saint blood, and even the mortal body. Only a small number of people were shocked. The Celestial Emperor returned to his natural state, perhaps understanding the secrets of the power of heaven and earth. It was said that the mortal body was the foundation. People didn't understand because they couldn't reach that realm. Now that the Celestial Emperor had done it, he was naturally supreme. In the past 400,000 years, the Celestial Emperor started an era of rule that ordinary people couldn't understand. In Yifan's 8th life, a new emperor appeared in the world. In a dragon vein of the ancient feather star, a stone man achieved the Tao and appeared in the world. Many people were shocked because he was exactly the same as the statue of the great Emperor Yuhua that the star worshipped. His strength and terror were beyond imagination, surpassing those who became emperors in the past. Great Emperor Yuhua. In the end, it was confirmed that he was the great Emperor Yuhua of the past. He referred to the supreme technique of the Holy Spirit lineage and went against the flow, slowly transforming his body into a stone embryo, and then died. After 700,000 to 800,000 years, he was nourished by the essence of heaven and earth, preserving a bit of his undying spiritual consciousness. In the end, he turned into a perfected Holy Spirit and then became an emperor again. This left everyone dumbfounded. Unfortunately, the reborn great Emperor Yuhua only ruled for a few years before he encountered a great crisis. Because of the shocking changes that occurred in the ancient desolate forbidden land, Great Emperor Ruthless let out a long roar and rushed into the sky. His eyes were filled with tears, and he was incomparably sad. Back then, it was the Yuhua God dynasty that caused her brother's death. On this day, little Nan woke up. She grabbed the corner of Yifan's clothes tightly, feeling a little scared. Within the ancient desolate abyss, ancient coffins soared up one after another from within the primal chaos dragon lair. They exploded one after another. Those were flesh bodies that were as exquisite as jade. All of them began to burn and turned into ashes. Wave after wave of immortal light rushed out and entered Vicious body. At this moment, not to mention others, even Yifan was shocked. He clearly saw that the immortal light also had the power of the primordial spirit. Now that they were combined, how powerful would they be? In the end, all the bodies in the coffins turned into ashes. The divine light and divine light merged into one body. It was as if an immortal had descended in the Great Dipper forbidden land. With that place as the center, it spread to the entire universe. In the end, even the heaven-swallowing demonic jar was summoned, and then it exploded. Endless essence energy and origin spirit entered her body. The great Emperor Ruthless strength was unimaginable. Big brother. Little Nan tightly grabbed onto the corner of Yifan's clothes, timidly and fearfully. After that day, Emperor Yu, great Emperor Yu, of the Emperor Yu, Emperor Yu, after that day, Emperor Yuhua kept a low profile. He never left this ancient planet for the rest of his life. Of Emperor of Yi, Emperor, Tian Emperor, Yi of Yi heaven of body, and personally, of Yi of little Nannan cried out in surprise. She transformed into a beam of light and entered the center of the great empress's brows. The universe trembled as if it couldn't withstand the pressure. Fortunately, Yi Fan acted and stabilized the surroundings. The great empress calmed down very quickly. At this moment, her eyes were no longer in a daze. Instead, they were as deep as the starry sky. In the end, she sighed, and clear tears flowed from her eyes. She was sorrowful, misty, and heartbreaking as she said, "Aren't you?" Yi Fan was silent, not knowing how to respond. The great empress turned and walked away step by step. Yi Fan opened his mouth and shouted, "Great Emperor, since our fate in the mortal world has been severed, why don't we march into the immortal realms?" Finally, Emperor Yu Great Emperor left. But at the moment when he was about to disappear, his immortal platform shone and little Nannan fell down with a confused look on her face. Yi Fan went forward, placed little Nannan on his shoulder, and brought her back to the celestial court. Time flowed by, everything was born and destroyed. Nothing could stop it. After such a long period of time, over 400,000 years, Huang Shudao, absolute beginning, white-haired sword god and the other geniuses on the heaven's chosen portrait appeared one after another. They didn't want to seal themselves anymore because they couldn't see any hope for the Heaven Empyrean to live forever. They were determined to come out. Sadly, some of them became emperors like absolute beginning, while others returned to dust, withered away in the mortal world. Zhang Bairen entered the celestial court and explained to Yi Fan about the ancient chaos era. That was a different universe. Regardless of the life forms, vegetation or cultivation system, everything was different from this era. He demonstrated his own Tao, causing Yi Fan to be greatly moved. That era basically didn't cultivate the 5 great secret realms. There was another cultivation system. Above the ancient chaos era, there's still the immortal ancient era. But in the end, everything was the same. All of them were destroyed and replaced by the new era. Zhang Bairen spoke. Yi Fan nodded. He thought of the ancient monolith he saw in the underworld, as well as the ancient corpses from different eras buried there. The immortal ancient era was an era where immortals truly descended. However, for some reason, everything was destroyed in the end, causing no one to become immortal during the ancient chaos era. Zhang Bairen sighed. He said that only the desolate heavenly emperor might have become immortal, and the desolate tower was his weapon. The celestial bell and bronze immortal palace were both left behind from the immortal ancient era. Yi Fan trembled when he heard this. It was just as he had speculated. There was a problem with the immortal domain. It wasn't that the cultivators of this world weren't strong enough to become immortals. In the 480,000 year of the Heaven Empyrean calendar, Yi Fan welcomed a challenge. A heavenly sovereign appeared. It wasn't the undying heavenly sovereign, but another terrifying Holy Spirit. He gained sentience from the immortal tier green gold and turned into a supreme Holy Spirit emperor. After his first era ended, he bitterly cultivated a second era. He called himself the Heavenly Sovereign and came to the celestial court to challenge Yi Fan. "It's you." When Yi Fan saw him, he felt a familiar aura. Then, he suddenly remembered and couldn't help but sigh. "You still remember?" Green light rushed into the heavens from the person who came. Celestial light surged, and he was truly matchless. That kind of aura was horrifying. Since ancient times, there had never been an imperial path elite who had gained sentience from immortal gold. It could be said that this was the most terrifying supreme existence in the history of the Holy Spirit bloodline. "I remember." Yi Fan nodded. Back then, he, Pang Bo, Li Heishui, the large black dog, and little Nan Nan entered the Undying Mountain. They had once seen a golden swallow, a small carriage, a foot-long golden bull, and other creatures formed from essence gold in front of a cave. They had even seen the immortal tier green gold flicker in the cave. Later, Yi Fan leveled the Undying Mountain and released an old emperor who didn't have much time left. That person took away the black tortoise celestial medicine, and also moved away the cliff with the ancient cave. Hundreds of thousands of years passed, and that immortal tier green gold embryo reached the consummate level. In the end, it became an imperial path supreme being. You leveled the Undying Mountain, so there is bound to be a battle between us. This Holy Spirit whose whole body flowed with green celestial light rushed over to fight the celestial sovereign. Boom! Yi Fan stood there and didn't move even half a step. He only swung his right fist and met the attack. This attack could have shattered the Sea of Stars, but the celestial sovereign stood there calmly. He didn't move at all when the fist collided. The green gold emperor was forced back. This result was astonishing. After so many years, someone who could take on the celestial sovereign's fist had finally appeared. However, those who truly understood would not think this way. This was because this was a celestial gold that had gained sentience and transformed into a celestial sovereign. This kind of material could be used to forge monarch tools, let alone become an emperor on its own. It was sturdy and immortal. The second attack began. Yi Fan still didn't move, but the green gold fist changed shape and became distorted beyond recognition. The final result was that in less than 10 moves, the celestial sovereign that had gained sentience from the immortal tier green gold was defeated. Yi Fan let him go, but he didn't reappear in this life until he passed away in meditation and turned back into immortal gold. In front of the celestial court, the 3 grand temples disappeared. The divine source split open, and 2 people walked out. Gai Jiuyo finally scattered in the end, unable to completely revive. GZ and the white-clothed divine king reappeared. They met again, feeling endless emotions. They should have been separated by life and death, but they met again in this life. Several thousand years later, they were sealed again. It was because their strength was great enough, so they couldn't go forward anymore. Otherwise, it would be difficult for them to seal themselves, and they would have to wait to conquer the immortal path. That day, a loud sound rang out from the distant depths of the cosmos. Someone saw a stone egg crack open, and endless immortal light surged. Yi Fan opened and closed his eyes, not paying it any attention. Meanwhile, after the Black Emperor received the report, he directly broke free from the immortal source. 9 pieces of ancient jade appeared in his large claw. The divine objects left behind by great Emperor Wuxia had finally been gathered after endless years. The Black Emperor constructed an altar, activating a secret method. The 9 pieces of divine jade shone, tearing apart the great cosmos. With a loud Wonglong sound, the heavenly Tao was torn apart. An enormous stone scripture appeared in the void, tearing apart the cosmos and descending into the celestial court. Apart from this, there was also an undying phoenix medicine that followed. That day, the innate divine body Tao embryo also appeared, starting his cultivation journey. The little boy was 5 or 6 years old, but he was precocious, and his talent was unprecedented. Yi Shui. This was the name the celestial emperor gave him when he turned into a mortal. It was because the place he was born in was called Yunchuan, and his mother's name also had the word Xi in it. From this day forth, a new legend rose up. His brilliance would illuminate the endless ages. Even though Yi Shui was young, he was extremely intelligent, learning everything extremely quickly. During his childhood, he continuously broke all types of records set by the ancients. Beside him was a purple Komatsu mouse. Its large eyes were like black gemstones, full of intelligence. It was very cute, and it had been sealed before. In this life, it either stayed on Yi Fan's shoulder, jumped onto Wu Shi's scripture, and studied it together with him. Otherwise, it would sleep soundly. Yi Fan walked over and said to Yi Shui, "The reason you can live until today is all because Komatsu risked his life to protect you. The only way you can repay him is to send him back to the throne in the future." "I understand, father." The little boy nodded. His eyelashes were very long, and although he looked like a porcelain doll, his expression was very firm. The creature in the stone egg came into being. It was a 5-colored divine phoenix, which then turned into a man with peerless talent. In just a few decades, he moved unhindered throughout the cosmos, breaking all kinds of records of his peers. Regarding this, Yi Fan didn't pay much attention. Even though he knew his origin and that he wasn't the son of the heavenly sovereign, he didn't pay too much attention to him. He didn't even instruct Yi Shui. However, the Black Emperor wasn't like this. He said, "Your father sees him as a stalk of grass by the side of the road, but you can't. He might be your lifelong rival. In reality, I think that's also a whetstone your father deliberately left for you. You must grasp it well." This formed an intense competition. Yi Shui also came into being, similarly breaking all the records of the ancients and advancing by leaps and bounds. The appearance of these 2 people in the cosmos made all the other geniuses lose their splendor. They were like dust in front of them, unable to catch up to their footsteps. The battle between these 2 geniuses erupted. It started when they had just become kings, fighting all the way to the great sage realm. No one interfered, and they fought with their lives on the line while bathed in blood. In the end, they fought all the way to the quasi-emperor realm. The time they took was terrifyingly short, and they established an astonishing record. They became quasi-emperor in just 200 years. This was a battle at the pinnacle. They fought for hundreds of years, killing until they achieved the Tao in a different way. Then, in the process of the battle, they destroyed all the Tao at the same time and became emperors and emperors. This created an unprecedented miracle. During this period of time, the Black Emperor had always been watching nervously, fearing that something unexpected would happen. Yi Shui's achievements made him so excited that hot tears flowed down his face. It was simply like the young great Emperor Wuxia had reappeared. Only the Komatsu was laughing foolishly without a care in the world. It had forgotten many things because its primordial spirit was almost destroyed. This made Yi Fan's heart ache. He no longer sealed it and brought it with him to walk through the cosmos. However, after so many tens of thousands of years had passed, the Celestial Emperor still hadn't found the Tao harmonizing flower. In the ice-cold cosmos, Yi Fan's entire body shone. He protected the Komatsu and walked on the path of heaven. In this life, his understanding of longevity had deepened by a lot, and he walked further and further on the path of longevity. Chapter 1820. Suddenly, Yi Fan stared at the cosmic void in front of him. His mind moved as if he had sensed something. His hands moved, tearing open heaven and earth, entering a primal chaos immortal soil. This place was very peaceful. There was a Taoist temple here. As soon as he entered, he smelled a fragrance that refreshed the mind. This was the undying medicine. He slowly walked in, revealing a strange expression. A ginseng fruit tree was rooted in the temple. There were a few snow-white fruits in the shape of humans, warm and sparkling, releasing a sweet fragrance. Celestial Emperor. An aged voice sounded. Under the ginseng fruit tree, there were some immortal and divine sources, sealing a group of people. Only a few Tao children were not sealed. They were at a loss when they saw him. Xianxia clan. Yi Fan sighed. He didn't expect to see this legendary person here, but he only got to see him today. It wasn't just him. There was a group of Qi practitioners, all of them famous. Among them was Gu Hong, who achieved the Tao in a different way. Some of the important figures of the pre-Qin Qi practitioners lived in seclusion in this primal chaos immortal soil. After chatting for an entire night, Yi Fan got up and bid farewell. He obtained an important piece of information here. The Tao fusing flower was first born in Kunlun, and then it flew into the sky, its whereabouts unknown. Yi Fan came to Kunlun, using this place as the starting point to carry out deductions. He wanted to find it, but after walking for many years, he was disappointed. He aimlessly traveled through the starry sky. One day, cries of alarm sounded from a star domain. The 9 dragons pulling the coffin appeared again. Unfortunately, no one could catch up or get close. Yi Fan's expression changed. He crossed endless galaxies, descending from the sky. He finally saw the 9 black dragons again, as well as that giant bronze coffin. Celestial Emperor. Everyone cried out in alarm. The ancient coffin was hazy, covered in mist. There were symbols carved all over it, and now, it had actually revived. No wonder people couldn't get close, couldn't catch it. Yi Fan descended from the sky, landing on the coffin. His heart was full of emotions. Everything was because of this coffin. The reason he could move unhindered through the universe for so many years was related to this. After he became the Celestial Emperor, he had long comprehended those several hundred ancient characters. Now, he sat here, not moving for a long time, attentively listening to the scripture sounds that sounded once more from the coffin. Several hundred ancient characters, every single one of them an imperial talisman, a type of supreme meaning. However, half of the imperial talismans did not talk about matters related to cultivation, but rather related to the construction and derivation of the immortal domain. Yi Fan also relied on this, as well as the information contained in the immortal medicines fragments, to deduce that there was a huge problem in the immortal region. Yi Fan entered the coffin. Komatsu was curious. Protected by the splendor, his large eyes sparkled as he watched. Within the enormous bronze coffin, a small coffin rested in disarray. At this moment, the scripture sounds stopped. It was completely silent, as if the eternal cosmos had been buried. Yi Fan arrived close before he slowly and forcefully opened the coffin. Instantly, chaotic chi surged while immortal light flowed into the surroundings, and it caused him to be shocked to the point his eyes opened wide. I see. His soft sigh contained too much. Then, he closed the coffin, turned around, and tore open the cosmos. He drew out a strand of his primordial spirit and appeared in the forbidden ancient land. He called out to the Empress and invited her over for a chat. In the next moment, not only did the Empress come, but the little girl also entered the space between her brows and became one with her. I opened this coffin a long time ago, and then I ordered the great completion Saint Physique to throw it out, the Empress said calmly. Even though he was a celestial emperor, Yi Fan was also stunned. In this world, only the ruthless great emperor would dare to do this. He didn't even know what to say about such boldness. Yes, he understood. Back then, the Empress didn't want to become an immortal, but to wait for that person to return in this mortal world. It was normal for her to throw away this coffin. Now, great emperor, please take a look together. The Empress didn't say anything and only watched quietly. Yi Fan opened the ancient coffin again. Chaotic mist flowed, and immortal light overflowed in all directions. It was incomparably peaceful. Komatsu widened his eyes and looked inside. This time, he finally saw clearly that it was actually a world. There were no corpses or people in the coffin. It was actually a mysterious world with flowing immortal light. If one jumped in, they would feel its vastness and boundlessness. Could it be that the so-called celestial domain is in the coffin? He thought of the hundreds of ancient characters. Half of them were methods to construct and evolve the celestial domain. All the immortals died, and the celestial domain was also damaged. It was cut off from this world. Heavenly Emperor Huang wanted to evolve the celestial domain and completely rebuild that world. It was obvious that the Empress knew more than Yi Fan. Yi Fan and the Empress discussed Tao. They sat in the coffin for several days, discussing longevity, immortality, and the path to immortality. Now that they were at the same level, they could verify each other. Back then, this coffin couldn't enter the celestial domain. It couldn't repair that world and was left in the mortal world. Boom! In the depths of the universe, the battle between the two geniuses came to an end. Yi Yishui won. The man transformed from the five-colored divine phoenix was cut down by him and was about to die. At the crucial moment, the flying immortal waterfall appeared again. A hand as white as jade fell. The undying heavenly emperor saved his son. His control over the flying immortal waterfall became more and more terrifying. He could actually manifest it at any time. Boom! At this moment, Yi Fan and Ruthless attacked at the same time, one fist and one palm striking at the flying immortal waterfall. The undying heavenly emperor brought his son into that world and actually took the initiative to welcome them, exchanging a palm strike with each of them. Immediately, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Ghosts cried and gods howled. The flying immortal waterfall was half destroyed. The undying heavenly emperor did this just to measure how terrifying these two were. Great Empress, please lend me a hand. Let's deduce the whereabouts of the Tao integration flower together, Yi Fan requested. It's in this coffin, the Empress said calmly. What? Yi Fan's heart trembled. Back then, I put it in this coffin. It was prepared for you, but unfortunately, it wasn't for you. The Empress was peerless, but her current expression made one's heart tremble. Yi Fan understood. Ruthless obtained the Tao integration flower and was waiting for the person with the saint physique. It would be difficult for him to become an emperor. Afterward, he saw this similar flower, and knew that one day, he would find this ancient bronze coffin. Back then, when the saint physique threw the bronze coffin out of the abyss, he had already placed the flower in it. Yi Fan felt guilty and expressed his gratitude. The Empress suddenly said, "It wasn't you, but if I were to inject his past and experiences into your sea of consciousness, it might be you." But she didn't make a move in the end. Yi Fan was stunned. The universe became peaceful. The 9 dragons and bronze coffin were brought back by Yi Fan to the celestial court. Beside him, there was a cute little girl who returned with him. The universe became peaceful. Komatsu had achieved the Tao through water and was difficult to seal again. Yi Fan had no choice but to seal him into the incomplete celestial realm in the bronze coffin and let him take care of Komatsu. And Yi Fan himself had changed his mind. He wanted to become an immortal in this world of mortals. Time passed, and in the 520,000 year of the celestial ruler's calendar, Yi Fan had obtained all 9 secrets. Even though they weren't of much use, they still had some value as a reference. In the end, they combined into one and released a power that could shock the immortals. It seems that I still have a long way to go. Since an old friend once said that the 9 secrets combined into one would be invincible throughout the ages, it is obvious that I have reached this step. Yi Fan knew that person was Di Zun. Even though Yi Fan had reached this step without relying on the 9 secrets many years ago, he felt that he could still go forward. He wanted to reach the end of the limit. In the 550,000th year of the celestial ruler's calendar, Yi Fan's 8th life should have come to an end. However, he didn't undergo any metamorphosis. Time stopped flowing and he didn't show any signs of passing away. In this year, he saw Duanda. In almost every life, he had to go to receive or send off the unscrupulous Taoist. Duanda had a long face for several lives, saying that he was unlucky in his 8 lives and digging graves for several lives. In the end, he was haunted by an evil ghost. In the 600,000th year of the celestial ruler's calendar, even though Yi Fan was very old, his blood qi didn't dry up. He still stopped at this stage as if he was really going to exist with the world. At this point, the whole world sighed. Celestial ruler was the only one. Since ancient times, only one person like him had reached this step. He was a special one. However, Yi Fan didn't think so. In his opinion, Vicious, Wuxia, and the undying heavenly emperor had all reached this step. Even Duanda might have become an immortal in the mortal world if he had the 9 seals of reincarnation. In the 640,000th year of the celestial ruler's calendar, Yi Fan metamorphosed again. This was intentional. He wanted to raise his state to the peak and then maintain it forever. His 9th life had begun. Sure enough, it was as expected. Time hardly left any traces on his body. He maintained the appearance of around 20 years old. His black hair was thick, his skin sparkling, and his body imposing as he overlooked the boundless heaven and earth. In the 720,000th year of the celestial ruler's calendar, Yi Fan still hadn't changed. He was still as young as before. During these hundreds of thousands of years, he had forged a total of 9 cauldrons, including green gold with immortal tear, blue gold with eternal blue, scarlet phoenix blood, black gold with dragon patterns, purple gold with divine marks, and golden tribulation Tao. All of them were immortal metals of different materials. In reality, Yi Fan once again found the fragment of Venerable Emperor's green cauldron. However, he didn't reassemble it. He had a strange expression as he brought the fragment to the forbidden area of the desolate era and discussed it with Vicious Great Emperor. Yi Fan combined the 9 divine gold cauldrons into one and refined them into a 9-colored treasure cauldron, becoming an immortal artifact. In the end, he used his unparalleled divine abilities to fuse the 9-colored immortal cauldron with the myriad qi cauldron. The 2 cauldrons became one, becoming an astonishing supreme immortal artifact. This year, Vicious Great Emperor also made a move. He first summoned the little girl and fused them into one. Then he put on a devil mask, looking like he was crying yet not crying, smiling yet not smiling. His smile carried traces of tears. It was the one buried in Kunlun back then. At the same time, she took back the bronze ring from Yi Fan's hands. Beneath the desolate era's abyss, the bronze immortal palace disintegrated. In addition, an immortal sword also shattered. 2 waves of essence and immortal energy rushed into the mask and the bronze ring, evolving into supreme immortal artifacts. Her methods were too shocking, truly turning something rotten into something magical. She no longer had any obsession in this life. Perhaps she had another obsession. After becoming an immortal, she wanted to see if that person could wake up. She wanted to see Yi Fan enter the celestial realm, and she also wanted to bid farewell to the mortal world. Those who understood knew that they were going to conquer the path of immortality. In reality, they were already considered immortals in the mortal world. In this life, Yi Fan opened the seal and invited all the experts from the celestial court. He wanted to start a new era. Decades later, when everything was ready, Yi Fan stood tall on the Tao, protecting a group of supreme experts to become emperors. He could already seal the Tao, and he could also fight against the immortal formed by the immortal medicine in the heavenly tribulation. Amidst the rumbling sounds, an immortal legend began. Sacred Prince, Dao Yi, Zhang Byron, Six-Eared Macaque, Yi Tong, Yang Shi, Hua Hua, Jiang Tingting, Shen Hua, Yi Xian. Everyone appeared. It was not just 1 or 2 people who were going to achieve Tao, but a group. This was a miracle that had never happened before, shocking the great universe. Komatsu also returned. With the help of the Tao fusing flower, he returned to the peak and became a great emperor. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. If this part of the universe wasn't protected, it would have been completely destroyed. Yi Fan invited the great empress, asking her to protect the various regions. The light of heavenly punishment was endless, and they all rushed down murderously. Yi Fan resisted the immortal formed by the immortal medicine in the heavenly tribulation. He was invincible and could no longer be killed. Instead, he killed those people one by one, and from this, he comprehended many secrets. He protected the Tao, making them pulse in sync. In the end, a group of people successfully became emperors. So many great emperors appeared at the same time, shaking the universe. An incomparably glorious era arrived. The group of great emperors rose together, and the Tao rumbled, shaking the past, present, and future. Chapter 1821. There were too many experts in the celestial court. So many great emperors gathered in this world. It was too shocking. There had never been such a thing in the past, and it would be difficult for it to appear again in the future. Yi Fan didn't immediately lead everyone on the path of immortality. Instead, he had them continue to cultivate, to consolidate the Tao fruits of this world. It was because after more than 700,000 years, he finally found all the heavenly materials needed to refine the 9 revolutions immortal pill. He refined furnace after furnace. Even though there were people like GZ and the white-robed divine king who had taken the undying medicine, the pill was still effective. After consolidating the Tao fruits of this world, thousands of years later, every one of them became extremely powerful, reaching the peak of the great Tao. Yi Fan had them take the 9 revolutions immortal pill, and they all recovered to their most vigorous youth. With a rumbling sound, a huge sound rang out from the forbidden land of the celestial court. Yi Fan arrived, stepping into a giant graveyard. He said softly, "My comrades who once fought shoulder to shoulder with me, I have come to fulfill my promise. I once said that I would not only bring you all to flatten the forbidden lands, suppress the endless chaos, establish extreme glory, but I will also bring you all on the path of conquering immortals. That will be an even more boundless and majestic battle map. I have come." Yi Fan's foot stepped down. With a rumbling sound, all of the great tombs split apart. Giant pieces of divine essence rushed out, every single one of them sealing a heavenly soldier or heavenly general. They had long aged, entering their declining years, but they were still alive, their auras isolated by the divine essence. Perhaps you all are too old to fight, but I will not forget my comrades and brothers from back then. Even if I die in battle, I will still bring you all on the path of immortality, into the immortal domain. Yi Fan roared. In front of the great tombs, piece after piece of divine essence flowed with divine splendor. Everyone opened their eyes. Their old eyes were turbid, containing tears, all of them trembling with excitement. Right now, there was already no need to say anything more. The celestial emperor had come to fulfill his promise. A sonorous war song had already sounded. The path of conquering immortals had begun. The army was grand and majestic. A few old friends rushed over, all of them personally sealed by Yi Fan back then. For example, Pang Bo, Zhang Wenchong, Zhang Xiling, Tu Fei, Li Heishui, Dong Fangyi, Li Tian, and Yan Yishi. There were also Dragon Horse, Wang Shu, Lei Bo, Ji Qingdao, Little K, and Xia Jiuyo. They led the various departments of the celestial court. Among them, Ji Haoyue, Li Ruoyu, and others had become emperors during the last tribulation. They would conquer the path together. The people of the past didn't die and all of them reappeared. Moreover, there were other old friends who hurried over as well, such as Wavering Light Divine Lord Vivian, Hua Lin Hua Chi-zi, and others. The present world's heavenly soldiers and generals all gathered, the endless great army covering heaven and earth, drowning out the stellar domain. Yi Fan was going to lead everyone into the immortal path. Master, many, 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 many A and A. Master, Master Emperor, 1A 1, 1, only 1, 1, 1, 1, A many A, I 1. There's no need to wait. Let's go, Yi Fan said. The entire universe was trembling. No one had expected to see such a magnificent scene. Countless celestial soldiers and generals followed Celestial Emperor and a group of emperors, preparing to ascend the path to heaven. They covered the vast universe. War songs resounded throughout the universe. They ascended the path to heaven, their army covering the sky. At the center of the army was an ancient bronze coffin. There was also a boundless divine source there, sealing the old soldiers and generals. Everyone protected them at the center. Open! Celestial Emperor made his move. The people of the world finally saw his unparalleled methods. With one punch, he blasted open the barrier of the universe, creating a huge passage and killing his way into a strange world. This is the celestial domain? Everyone trembled. There, a rain of light danced in the air. It wasn't the right time, nor was it the right place, but Celestial Emperor had blasted him away. This is the path to immortality, but it hasn't reached the celestial domain yet. I have to meet someone along the way. A few emperors, like the Sacred Prince, Dao Yi, and Zhang Byron, saw a gap at the end of the path that led to another world. Yi Fan invited the Empress to enter and guard that gap. Then, he opened up the path himself and invited everyone to embark on their journey. The majestic and endless army stepped on the path to immortality and entered a strange world. Not the right time, not the right place. Only by entering this world can one pierce through the celestial domain, the Empress said softly. Then she suddenly raised her eyes. With a rumble, she slammed out a palm to exchange blows with someone. They had just entered this world, and a battle had already broken out. However, no one was worried for Vicious. In this vast world, no one dared to say that they could kill her. The majestic army entered this strange world. Yi Fan no longer maintained the passage and entered with large strides. The person who exchanged blows with someone bled from his mouth, but he didn't yield and attacked again. Everyone was aghast. What kind of world was this? They had just entered and they already met someone who could fight against the real Empress Flawless? This was a true Emperor realm expert. With a boom, that person flew out and coughed out blood. His body split open and then exploded. He reassembled his body in the distance and revealed an expression of shock. He didn't dare to believe this reality and quickly fled. The Empress didn't care and didn't chase after him. Becoming an immortal in the mortal world, this was clearly not her true battle prowess. This was a vast world. Yi Fan and the Empress stood side by side and deduced together. They quickly understood this world. This place is extraordinary. There are some immortal and undying substances. Moreover, it is vast and boundless, and there are as many experts as there are clouds. The most important thing was that they discovered a shocking fact. This was a man-made great world that wanted to evolve into the immortal domain in order to make up for that damaged world. After more than 200,000 years, Yi Fan and Vicious Empress once again evolved. Through the immortal medicine, they roughly understood that the immortal domain no longer had immortals. All of them died in the immortal war that year. In reality, even though the population of the immortal domain was vast, there weren't many true immortals. The number was limited, less than 100. The rest hadn't reached that step. Of course, this was referring to one's cultivation realm and battle prowess. If one was talking about immortality, then that was a different matter. It was because that world had undying and long-life substances that could allow those who reached that realm to achieve immortality without relying on their own cultivation. The immortal domain was damaged. There were no longer any immortals, and it was cut off from the mortal world. Cracks would occasionally appear, but no one could seize the opportunity to enter. This was because the immortal domain was damaged. The natural laws would stop anyone who wanted to enter and protect themselves. Otherwise, it was rumored that in the immortal ancient era, as long as one was an immortal, they could ascend into the immortal world. Meanwhile, saints were even more so known as undying and undying in that world. All of the natural laws had changed. That was why even those as powerful as great emperors couldn't enter. If one wanted to enter the immortal domain, only by becoming an immortal in the mortal world could one break through the passage between the two realms and truly enter. Only immortals could repair and evolve that world in the future. As a result, Yi Fan became an immortal in the mortal world, and Vicious Empress also stood in this realm for many years. Be careful, this world not only has the undying heavenly emperor, there is another person as well. Otherwise, great Emperor Wuxia wouldn't be powerless to deal with him. Yi Fan transmitted sound. He directly grabbed the heaven heart imprint of this world, immediately seeing through many secrets. Roar! Suddenly a loud roar sounded. An immortal phoenix spread its wings and took to the skies, leading an endless army. This world was extremely vast, and there were countless experts as well. Undying Heavenly Emperor, hand over your life. The Black Emperor roared. Now, he had truly become an Emperor realm expert. Wanglong. The Black Emperor released a long roar. With a shake of his hand, he tore open the void, producing a green jade tortoise that entered the great army. With a hong sound, endless corpse energy erupted. There were countless casualties, and even Emperor realm experts were almost affected. The Undying Heavenly Emperor's expression changed. This was actually the corpse energy he left behind in the past. He spread his wings and swept out, instantly dispersing all the corpse energy, completely dissolving it. This immortal phoenix turned into a human form and descended, saying, "Everyone, there is no enmity that can't be resolved in this world. Entering the immortal domain isn't that easy, and we need at least 3 mortals to attack together. Moreover, we also need to choose the correct coordinates, or else we won't be able to enter, and the immortal domain will be damaged. Why don't we work together?" No one expected the Undying Heavenly Emperor to actually say such words. He stood there with a heroic posture, not a single trace of time left on him. He looked to be in his 20s, and his charm was matchless. "Sorry, we have enough people, and we don't need you. As for the correct coordinates, I also have them here." Yi Fan raised the immortal treasure map. This was precisely the ancient map he obtained from the nest of 10,000 dragons, and it originally belonged to Vicious Empress. Later on, he studied it with the Empress and finally understood what it was. It recorded the imprints of the human universe, and it even hid the immortal domain's void map. Undying Heavenly Emperor, hand over your life. Back then, you ambushed my grandfather, and later on, you ambushed Brother Komatsu, causing the deaths of great emperors one after another. Kill. The little sacred ape roared loudly, carrying the immortal iron rod and rushing forward. Kill. There were people behind the Undying Heavenly Emperor who also roared loudly. They didn't lack Emperor Path experts. There were a few people who stood side by side, slaughtering their way forward. In the distance, heaven overflowing fluctuations surged, engulfing all directions, making even Emperor Path experts tremble. Great Emperor! The Black Emperor couldn't help but cry out loudly, tears flowing down, unable to control them any longer. That was an imposing figure, heroic and intimidating. His black hair was thick, his gaze wise and far-sighted, able to see through everything. With every movement, heaven and earth's Tao would tremble and wail for him. His style was unmatched in this world. Who is the peak at the end of the immortal path? With one look, Wu Shi's Tao becomes empty. It was unknown just how many tens of thousands of years these words had been passed down. Only now did the people of this world see him. It wasn't the slightest bit of exaggeration. He was already immortal, his accomplishments matchless. However, his enemy also reached this realm, a native of this strange world, also immortal. During all these years, Great Emperor Wu Shi was jointly targeted by the Undying Heavenly Emperor and this person. One could well imagine just how difficult it was. Great Emperor Wu Shi also had followers, but they clearly couldn't become mortal immortals. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so difficult these past few years. However, it was different now. Yi Fan and the Empress arrived. The number of mortal immortals on both sides reversed. He no longer felt any fear, completely letting go of his hands and feet. A world-shocking great battle erupted. Great Emperor Wu Shi faced off against a mortal immortal. A palm descended, heaven and earth reversed, time flowing in reverse, leaving everyone shocked. He was incomparably powerful. When faced with this type of expert, he looked down on them, taking action as if he was tearing through dry weeds and smashing through rotten wood, shaking the past, present, and future. With one look, Wu Shi's Tao becomes empty. The ancients didn't deceive me. Many people sighed in admiration. Destroy all of them for me. The Undying Heavenly Emperor held the immortal blade in his hand, pointing at Yi Fan and the endless army behind him. Behind him were countless experts, and there was no lack of Emperor Path figures. If they attacked, those who became emperors would be fine, but the celestial soldiers and generals would inevitably be wiped out. Arrange the formation. Yi Fan shouted. With a Wunglong sound, a formation diagram flew up. Yi Xian, Divine Child, Little Silkworm, Yellow-Tooth's Granddaughter Supreme Immortal Physique, Little Sacred Ape, and Yi Shui each held a killing sword, entering the center of the earthquake. They immediately covered this world, stopping all enemies. Undying Heavenly Emperor, today, we will fight to the death. Yi Fan walked forward. Mortal immortal against mortal immortal. These were the two greatest experts since the ancient times. One was known as the Celestial Emperor. The other was known as the Heavenly Emperor. One was destined to fall. At this moment, there was nothing more to say. They could only fight to the death. With a rumble, Yi Fan's fist smashed over. The undying Heavenly Emperor's left palm slashed out diagonally, transforming into 5 colored phoenix wings. The two fiercely clashed, as if splitting heaven and earth. The Empress took action, stabilizing the area, preventing the aftershocks from attacking and affecting the Great Formation. Kill! On Yi Fan's side, the Sacred Prince, Dao Yi, Zhang Bairen, Yi Tong, Komatsu, and the others all took action. With the 6 small formations at the front, they complemented each other and swept forward like rotten weeds. The other side's Emperor Path experts also came out, also setting up a killing formation, intensely clashing. Only the Empress fought alone, her style peerless. The addition of the mortal immortal was the greatest deterrent, and the blow to the undying Heavenly Emperor's side's morale was too great. Dang! The 5-colored immortal blade slashed over, and Yi Fan's immortal cauldron rushed up. The collision between the two produced the most brilliant sparks. The treasured cauldron was unharmed, but a crack appeared on the immortal blade. The undying Heavenly Emperor was shocked. The other party's cauldron was too extraordinary. With a rumble, they engaged in a confrontation of extreme Dao and mortal immortal life and death battle. Yi Fan's 9 secrets merged into one, and the moment he went up, he unleashed an annihilating and matchless divine technique. However, unexpectedly, the undying Heavenly Emperor also used this move, and he had long since collected the 9 secrets. Boom! The heavens fell and the earth cracked. This immortal continent was almost destroyed, but it was once again stabilized by the ruthless person's stamp. Immortal Phoenix Seal. The Heavenly Emperor roared, and he put down the 5-colored immortal blade, letting it face the immortal cauldron alone. He turned into an immortal phoenix and swooped down, forming a huge divine seal in front of him, covering Yi Fan below. Celestial Emperor Fist. Yi Fan roared, and his hair rushed into the sky. He rushed up, meeting force with force, shaking the heavens as he faced the immortal phoenix seal. The river of time collapsed, and the past and present were thrown into chaos. The power of time between the two was obliterated, and a great collapse occurred. Kill! Just like that, they fought fiercely, and immortal blood splashed everywhere. Father, I've come to help you. In the distance, an immortal phoenix cried out. Its magical force overflowed into the heavens, and it was matchless and powerful. It was actually close to the red dust immortal. Senior brother Hua Hua, take my place. I'm going to face that phoenix. Yi Shui shouted. Hua Hua, who had long become a Buddha, had a dignified appearance. He entered the formation, and after receiving the killing sword, he took action with a face full of benevolence. However, he didn't show any mercy. The killing sword weaved about, and bloody light shone boundlessly. Yi Shui rushed up, fighting against the opponent from the past. Father and son entered the battlefield together, fighting a great battle. Hung Long. In the distance, an enormous sound rang through the air. The battle between Great Emperor Wuxia and the Red Dust Immortal ended. His palm descended, suppressing that person. He was beaten until he coughed out large mouthfuls of blood, and all of the bones in his body were broken. It was just like back then, when he used one hand to suppress the divine self-body formed from the undying Heavenly Emperor's power of faith. It was just one hand, yet the opponent couldn't even raise his head. Dang! The Wuxia bell that had long become an immortal artifact rang, shaking this person until he coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. His body broke apart inch by inch, and even his primordial spirit was extinguished before exploding. Great Emperor Wuxia killed a red dust immortal. The undying Heavenly Emperor's eyes were all red. After so many years, he had never truly killed this opponent. Who would have thought that he would endure until this day, and that reinforcements would arrive? Yi Fan's hair flew in disarray, and his eyes released cold lightning. He evolved his own Dao and techniques, contending against the undying Heavenly Emperor in a decisive battle to the death. No one stepped forward, and everyone watched the battle. Chung! Suddenly, the undying Heavenly Blade left the immortal cauldron, turning around and hacking down, aiming for the back of Yi Fan's head. Yi Fan didn't even turn his head. He directly shook his fist, and his entire body shone as if it was burning. With a dang sound, the 5-colored heavenly blade was broken. Great Emperor Wuxia walked over. His body dyed in the blood of the red dust immortal. The Empress' white clothes also cut off the path forward. The outcome was already decided. However, Yi Fan didn't invite them to attack. With a long roar, he fully displayed his Celestial Emperor technique, and his entire body turned into immortal light, sweeping forward. Pooh! In the final battle, one of the undying Heavenly Emperor's phoenix wings was torn off, and immortal rain scattered everywhere. Father! His son shouted loudly. Yi Fan mercilessly attacked. His eyes released cold lightning, and he split the Heavenly Emperor in half, defeating the great enemy. Ha ha! The Heavenly Emperor, whose primordial spirit was torn, laughed bitterly and said, "When I was young, I accidentally entered a rarely seen crack in the void, falling from the immortal realm into the mortal world. I always wanted to go back, and finally became a red dust immortal. Even that world doesn't have such an expert now. Who would have thought that I would fall on the road?" Everyone was shocked when they heard this. "You only have yourself to blame for this." Yi Fan took a step forward, and the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. He stomped the undying Heavenly Emperor into pieces. Then, the immortal cauldron flew down, collecting all of the undying Heavenly Emperor's broken body and primordial spirit. With a light shake, only ashes fell, and an Heavenly Emperor's imprint appeared on the cauldron's wall. At the same time, Yi Shui killed that little immortal phoenix. There was no longer any suspense in this battle. Yi Fan's party swept through all of their enemies like breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The world was quiet, and blood dyed the earth red. In the end, the sonorous sounds of swords clashing rang out incessantly, and everyone cheered loudly. Yi Fan, the Empress, and Wuxia, the 3 red dust immortals, gathered together and were about to open the gates to the immortal realm. Suddenly, an indescribable aura appeared, devouring all things. The world actually slowly turned into a cauldron, and it was about to refine everyone. "It's him. He really didn't die," Great Emperor Wuxia said softly, but his eyes were wise and his expression didn't change. "Di Zun, you are still alive," Yi Fan shouted. When this voice sounded, the world shook, and everyone was in an uproar. Back then, Yi Fan had brought the fragments of the Di Zun cauldron to the forbidden land of the ancient antiquity and studied it with Great Emperor Vicious. They came to a shocking conclusion. Di Zun's Tao had not dissipated. "It's me, overlooking the ages and refining a cauldron. This world will become my cauldron, and I will bring you all to immortality." A dignified voice sounded. He was going to refine everyone's Tao and devour them all. Di Zun. It was actually Di Zun again. A person who had died for tens of thousands of years had actually been overlooking the boundless world, waiting in the dark. "Investiture of the gods, come!" Great Emperor Wuxia shouted. A divine diagram appeared in the world and reorganized itself. Over the endless years, it had long engraved the imprint of this world to interfere with the formation of the Di Zun world cauldron. The investiture of the gods had not truly been destroyed on the path to immortality, and now it had appeared again. "It's useless. I have already refined the entire human realm. That universe is going to be destroyed and become my cauldron. I will draw you all into the great cauldron." The dignified voice seemed incomparably cold. "You are so ruthless. Not only do you want to turn this place into your cauldron, but you also want to destroy the entire human realm." Everyone was shocked. "It's too early for you to be happy." Yi Fan sneered. Boom. There was a loud sound, and the other world shook. "Good disciple. Have you forgotten, Master?" Another voice sounded. The barrier between the human realm and this world was broken, and Duanda's voice came. The 9 paths of reincarnation gathered, and he fused them into one. He had actually become an immortal in the mortal world. He had also come. There was a tower of desolation and a celestial bell there. They had locked down the human realm and the universe. Even if Di Zun could reach the heavens, it would be difficult for him to refine them in a short period of time. The celestial bell and the tower of desolation were naturally left behind by Yi Fan and Ruthless, and they were given to Duanda. Di Zun had secretly engraved too many symbols in the human realm, and he had also secretly made countless preparations in this world. He was looking forward to the day when he would refine the 2 realms into a cauldron and obtain a supreme fairy artifact. Unfortunately, he had failed at the last moment. Emperor Wuxia had already noticed it, and he had recorded all the ripples in this world with the investiture of the gods, which could interfere with the formation of the world cauldron. In the human realm, Yifan and Ruthless had already wiped out most of them. Now that Duanda had reappeared, Di Zun's heart sank. Back then, he had been attacked by people together, but he had not really died. He had been blown up to do something shocking. Back then, his so-called ascension of the sect and the emperors had all been for his own sake. However, he had revealed some clues, and people had found out that they wanted him to kill them, so he had been counterattacked. There is nothing to say. Kill. Yi Fan, the Empress, and Wu Shi attacked at the same time. They attacked the sky together, launching the fiercest attack. This battle was very fierce, but there would be no accidents. In the end, they broke the world cauldron and found the Di Zun, who was also a mortal immortal. His blood splashed in the starry sky, and he was killed. Alas, is he really my disciple? Duanda shook his head. Thinking of their relationship, he could not say anything more. The four mortal immortals joined hands, opening up the immortal domain. The great army advanced majestically. Immortal light danced about, a rain of light filling the sky. That enormous gate shocked many people. This type of boundless fluctuations naturally startled everyone in the immortal domain. In the crowd, Ko Xiaoxiao held the immortal melody, her face covered in tears. That supreme treasure released woo-woo sounds. She said softly, "The fate of the world of mortals has been severed. We will meet again on the path of immortality." Yi Shui carried her mother who was sealed in the divine source on her back, walking with large steps. Little Nan Nan reappeared, sitting on Yi Fan's shoulder, smiling happily. The Empress and Yi Fan stood side by side. In the distance, the startled immortal domain people appeared. Among them, there was a purple-clothed woman whose tears had already continuously flowed, but she was smiling happily as she quickly rushed over. "I knew it was you. It was definitely you." She was crying, smiling, like a pear blossom in the rain. "Father." There was another young lady who rushed over from behind. "We have many things to do. The immortal domain needs to be repaired." Great Emperor Wu Shi said softly. 9 dragons pulling a coffin slowly came over. "There are only a few true immortals left. There won't be many more." Duanda sighed softly. He understood the secrets of the immortal domain's source. End of book.